The individual's handicapped by coming face to face with a conspiracy so monstrous that he cannot believe it exists. That's part of what's happening here. The biggest lie we've ever been involved with.
With false image existence, before you betwixt, you give your birthright for porridge. Curses unearth these birds brought upon us. The serpents, they lurk in birth of the carnage. Stuck in confusion, don't know the author. Snake oil in a lamp, walking through darkness. Sold by an astronaut, lab co-prophet, that hold up a rod with two serpents on it. Two wings on the heliocentric sun disk. Same symbol found on the pharaoh sarcophagus. The same Babylon erect a phallic obelisk to the same religion pushed by the Catholics. The devil done did a half mental backflip. The temple of Mithra under the Vatican. The false trinity, you know they on they semi-rammer shit. The horror Babylon, that pussy could pull a battleship.
You don't like one vaccine and suddenly you're an anti-vaxxer. You're a tinfoil hat if you speak against 5G. We see a pattern here. The answer is not to argue the science, the answer is to demonize the people speaking out.
Yo, I'm a tinfoil hat wearing anti-vax parent. You can catch the full 5 fingers cause you mad ignorant. You can never give me the jab, nigga, you lack clarity. You can't see the signs of the times, nigga, you lack vision. You can't obtain freedom of mind because you have neither 5G system designed to fry you. Can't smell the smoke, invisible fire. Can't see the weapon you're living inside of. Direct energy DARPA designed it, that VMAT 2 gene linked to the father. Religious extremists, they vaccine for it, making you wonder if marks upon your right hand or forehead. Unplug the matrix into the gauntlet. War is upon us. Prophets spoke of it. Hold on to love quick. End all the suffering. Fuck it, we off this.
What we're dealing with is a huge mass mind control propaganda outbreak. We're not really dealing with a viral outbreak.
All you know is propaganda, you've been fed since birth. They've been lying on the news, they've been lying in the church. They've been lying to the public about the shape of the earth. Everything you see on the TV set is an act. Holding hands under the table, knife tip at they back. Cause they already sold their soul, ain't no turning back for them. And I can't fuck with them, they suspicious, looking mad foreign. The world's straight wicked, why did they adore it? While the righteous witness and abhor it. The minds of the wise confounded in Pandora. The boiling point's been reached of the oil. The geysers erupt right from the soil. Like a torch or walk through the darkness. Fist ain't no match for a long stick. Agent Smith go down from no full clip. Just one touch, assemble into a full chip.
Yo, it's World War, source supplies are scarce. Listen to ours, prepare hibernating cabins while terrain scorches. We think tanks in symbolic fortress. Socialism forces to flee Holocaust agendas. Burn offerings with the flesh, burn equinox. Evil star of bloodlines, combine and scatter minds. War crimes is nutricide, fluoridate the populace. Bombs over Baghdad, Nazi and Unagi fed. Indie minds, the clock time, out of bodily proportions. From fire to ether elements. Death ray weapons, greatest death slaves suffering. Under gold and silver trends of the Bilderberg curves, aggression still is feeding time. Tap your mind, a kind of riot. They usurp the few to colonize foreign planets.
How do we stop a system of greed and corruption that condemns poor populations to slavery?
Government-issued maladies and fallacies, proprietary cures and environmental travesties, airborne inoculations, desensitized by hypnotic occupations. Join the coalesced congregations. Era of time, measure mechanical clock. Got you stuck inside a box with the predictable plot. Majority of Earth's population's facing decimation. Funny flavor in your water, poison that you're tasting. Purity is hard to replenish. Once the carcinogenic has been introduced, your impulse has been seduced. Induced to spread virally, venereal infections. Germinate the seed, breed material possessions. Seek to pacify through transgression. Subatomic body control, submission and subliminal lessons. Through corporate talismans, you perceive the enchantress. The deed's been implanted.
I see political demons, warlocks playing with pictograms and Ouija boards. America is falling into esoteric Satanism. The magical spells of King Solomon written on my battle shield as I walk through the battlefield filled with landmines. While my mind intertwines configurations of mathematical data in a sequential order like a Fibonacci spiral. Chromatica, which form the complex forms of matter. The universe was created from dark matter. Words evolve as I carve hieroglyphics on a Egyptian skull, the materia prima. In the secrets of Osiris, captured within a black mirror. Your soul swims through protoplasma. The singularity of triple stages of darkness harnessed in your 7 chakras.
Secret organizations of the world power elite are no longer secret.
It's known as the Bilderberg Group. Could their objective be world domination?
And the kids say, Watch your man, I think he's faking a band. Y'all are either on the world or destroyed while holding hands. Architect, terrible vet with bent flashback. Me clutching a 30-odd, burn village laughing. Gas mask latching, signal for the whirly. Worm killer bird in a set and flex early. Gotta beat the Russian reporter to the hive mind. Weatherman as such, motherfucker. Try to malign mine. Let's digress now, kings, put your cans up. Paint the city scope with the prettiest type of cancer. Watch them laser surge every tumor like fatal relica. New York is the truancy bird, state it's of a brutalized lab bunny, jumping the fence. Grab the money and a charger for the microchip embedded ahead. Brooklyn is the life, equal parts joy strife. I sit up in the crib and carve these annoying kites out of lead. The same weight on a monkey on my neck, who crawled up on my back and tried to make friends. Now I'm walking around lit like the fun never ends. But summer rain, they key on my whip, plus left dents. Welcome to my bastard delight night, gents, where everything has a meaning but none of it makes sense. Living is so demeaning, but rappers still wanna offer fake aliens from lying saucers. I don't have the time and I'm searching for bigger answers. The beat is so sick, made with real bits of panther. The play of the city streets don't take to these broken cleats. I hold my Johnson and walk a retarded, it's just me.
What up, team? Desperate men do dangerous things. Full of law system, New York with no kings. Desperate kids do dangerous shit. Full of law system, it's on where you live. Yeah, biatches, death drugs, weather maniacal.
My name is Upper Doctor, my friend. I walk rawly, oddly, bent hard beats. Fiends try to draw me. Another close copy, but not the god hardly. Sex shit sloppily, fuck yourself. Pardon me. Look, you're kinda scientist. Here they come to cure us all. Mind is on your money, sonny. Brain is on the curtain call. Get it, kid, a sack of D. That's a child, a bag of seed. Even in a tenement residence, it's a pharmacy. Deadly young people, deadly new day. Young, deadly, dumb kick, snare, pad, and play. Dignity for criminals, science for religion. War stole the future. Pieces for bitches, everything's a felony, relatively hellishly. Cops make guns whistle like here, check the melody. You need to learn the warship, the warship. Anything made of steel, of course, can leave corpses. Cops on 4 horse, hot to draw quarters. The more of his thoughts are made, laws and enforced. Quick, don't lift your foot off for that landmine switch till I make the 20-yard dash and cover my eyelid. We don't need no education, there's no patience. My team is on a food line, flickering the wasting. Walkies all connected, gotta wait for the signal. Weathermen are the lefties that burn to the bone gristle. Insight is disease, feed the criminal rotary. All over the world it's the same scope, fuck locally. Alpha flight airs that are rare, we walk openly. Feeling like a kid again, umbilical choking me. Never shit on my back to the bastards, not openly. Don't you even whisper shit, not even a joking me. Straight out of Poisonville, coming up for air again. Now the air is poisonous, environment choking me.
Desperate men do dangerous things. Full of law system, New York with no kings. Desperate kids do dangerous shit. Full of law system, it's on where you live. Yeah, biatches. Yeah, nigga. NY to Philly. What y'all niggas feel like? Drama?
Cool G and Connor. Jedi Mind.
That's the case, nigga. You know the dawn on with 16, and out the horn for this big cream, the whips and the carriage, blow like the Knicks and the Mavericks, slip in the fabrics, pull up with some bench shit, the tennis shit, hitting the hazards. Got a bitch with that Chris habit. Gotta have it, fuck shorty, it's in the OT with a brick in the baggage. Throw where the club's at, slip with a rabbit. Chick only lick dick status to get cabbage. She can lap it to the dick Baptist. Who back on the map, G and Connor with a fingers. It's drama to the finish, put the llama to your appendix. It's squeezing the slug, gunpowder season your blood. I'm a legend, breathing the reason you thug, nigga. It's where the buck stops. Fuck props, fuck shots to the top. Money, what the fuck you forgot? Thought I was done, wasn't touching the block. Still real, busting the Glock. Put it where you can see it. What up now?
Yeah. Yo, what's the motherfucking gap to this? Y'all believe lies like y'all was Catholics. I rap in Arabic, so my message is just immaculate. My rap elaborate, Rick of 40 can blaze a sack to it. My aim is accurate, take your brain and blow out the back of it. I'm salty, miserable cat that slap shorties. Looks kinda resemble that, a fat Paulie. I don't even clap, young boy, clap for me. Chain hang down on my dick, I'm that gaudy. I don't even fuck with you cat, you rap poorly. I don't even bucket you cat, you that corny. Put a whack on me. We barking at you, and Vinny Paz hold a hammer like a carpenter do. You should understand that I ain't really fucking around. And if you don't, you're gonna find your body stuck in the ground. We bucking them down, cause that's how wrong my life is. Y'all don't understand how fucking strong my wife is. I'm from a time where every song was righteous. Before rap was just a swarm of white kids. And y'all are witness to the dawn of heightness, or just another victim to the pawns and shysters. I feed your corpse to a swarm of vipers. Let them suck the blood till your form is lifeless. What? Fucking Vinny Paz, daddy. Jedi mind tricks. Yeah.
G-Rap, G and Connor, Jedi mind. Y'all niggas.
Yeah, blessings. Thank you all for being here. Welcome to the Machine Lies, where we talk about the lies of the machine on the machine that lies. And yeah, we got an interesting show today, documenting the rise of technique, the autonomy of technique in the modern world. And of course, one of the main ideas that comes into the framework is when technique itself, through the world technological system, actually becomes a international movement, right? And B, right, when it the technique, they start to develop techniques that make human beings their object, right? And once this technique of objectifying humans, right, is actually put at the central place of the society, right, then technique becomes autonomous, right? You have two ideas that come into the framework, right? One is the technical complex, and the other is a collective technical intent, right? And how do these ideas develop over time, right? Well, Ellul actually traces the development of technique throughout history, right? He gives several historical critiques about the rise of technique in the modern world. So what do we mean by technique? We mean by technique essentially the essence of the technological, in the sense that Heidegger said that the essence of technology is nothing technological, as we read last time. So we're moving with understanding that a non-technical analysis of technique is not possible. Go to simply understand technique on its own terms, right? And what it represents. Now, I think what it really represents is the tendency towards symbolism, right? And mediation of the world through the symbolic forms, right? And that's what catalyzes this unique, sort of shape and development, okay, through the cultural forms, right? So obviously, the development of culture and society and of the mega machine, right, in terms of simple tools, okay, and cultural systems, right? All those are important. I mean, so what we're talking about is, how technique becomes autonomous, and we've been tracing, right, the rise of technique. Now, what is technique, right? Okay. As I explained earlier, Ellul talks about three main ideas, right? He talks about technique, he talks about human society, and he talks about the machine, right? And the machine is, or the mechanical sort of ideal, right? Or I guess there is a mechanistic ideal, right? And actually, we have a name for that, right? We call it mechanos, right? And of course, there's a mythos of mechanos, right? But it exists in the future, right? Doesn't exist in the past, right? A mechanos is sort of a different way of organizing information, right? But yeah, I'd like to say hello to my friend Hostile Hyperborean. Greetings to you, peace be with you. Unless you're busy at the moment, blessings to you, even, and thank you for joining.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. I want to apologize for leaving last time so
No, it's all good.
abruptly.
No, it's no worries. Yeah. Pretty much the show was pretty much over. I announced it like 3 or 4 times. So, I noticed you had stuff going on in the background, so it's really no worries, my friend.
Yeah, having 3 kids, and it's tough. But yeah, man, great opener. I'm excited. I want to listen. You got me hooked from the last one. You seem to be more pithy than most other. What would you call this? A podcast, a vlog? I don't want to mischaracterize it, but whatever you call that, or what this is, you seem to be more deep than others, and that's what I'm interested in. So, and we think along the same lines. We may disagree here and there on certain, nuances, but mostly, I like where you're going with this. So, thank you for allowing me to sit in on it.
Oh yeah, of course. I've been trying to trace the development of the shaman. I think the shaman stands at the beginning of history, right? And I think that it's a great I think that the shaman is an instinct to purify the metals, right? Because the metals can be basically storehouses, or basically create vectors, right, for unwanted spirits and things, right? So when you channel energy through these metals, right, you have to have a shamanic class that can work with the metals, right? So this is the thing, is that metals, right, I think that we need a special class of people to deal with metal, right? And to make jewels and tools and things, and to really imbue them, right, with a sort of spiritual force, and so that when we develop tools and those sort of things, they have cultural rights attached to them, right? And why do we have rights, rights? It's because we don't have rights, rights, right? You can't ghost somebody in a village, right? So what's happening now is that the proliferation of technique has created a monoculture, right? And so the original forms of culture, now obviously you have the problem with white people, right, that are losing their culture. They have no culture. They have to appropriate culture from the brown and black people of the world, right? And they even have to import religious sensibilities from those people, right? Having basically sacrificed all of their spiritual vision to technique, right, and to science and to the scientific and mechanistic worldview, right? And then you have the brown people and the black people of the world. They're in a not a better situation, right, because of their degeneration and their poverty, right? They want to adapt technique as fast as possible. They want to get rid of their cultural traditions, right, and all of that type of stuff, right? As quickly as possible, right? So the world is in a rush to apply or to benefit or to get in the range of, of the proliferation of technique, right? And how is technique proliferated, right? Well, technique is proliferated, right, as Ellul says, right, from a cross-cultural genealogy, right? That machines actually have a cross-cultural genealogy rather than tools. That tools actually are reliant on cultural forms, and they're also reliant on the speed and pace of human movement, right? The collective incubation of techniques in the form of machines and in the form of the mechanical, it supersedes cultural forms. And actually, technique in general has a quality that once different cultures seem to adopt technique, it actually doesn't have as much or the previous forms of technique, they didn't have as much of a cultural impact, right? Like tools, right? They don't have as much of a cultural impact as large scale technologies, right? Once large scale technologies are implemented in a society, right, then it becomes really hard to predict the cultural changes that are going to happen in that society, right? So what's interesting is the hybridization of technique and the cultural forms usually leads to the elimination of those cultural forms, right? And you have another issue that Ellul is talking about, which is, the rise of, this idea of, data, right, or planning, right, and statistics and norms, right, and how those are used as a form of social engineering, right, and they're a necessary effect of techniques themselves, right? They're not like it's not like something that's some sort of psychological mindset that's engendered through the use of technique that causes people to behave this way, right? Or some sort of collective will on the part of the people who are developing the techniques, right? But rather, it seems to be a necessary effect of the scope of the techniques themselves, right? So, so a lot of things like advertisement, mass surveillance, all this other stuff. A certain amount of corporate espionage, and all these, data firms, where they buy and sell data, right? It seems to be a necessary consequence of the tools that are used to generate the information, right? The tools and the machines that are used to generate this information, right? So, so actually, I've been hearing a lot. Actually, I turned on the radio today, right? And just really quickly, this is like economics news, and they started talking about soft data versus hard data. And how the difference between soft data and hard data, really odd type of thing they were talking about in the news. But I sort of went and looked this up, and I found a bunch of videos. So one of the first videos I found, and I don't know why this came up, because this guy only has 300 subscribers, but nevertheless, I guess we'll just give him a play here and see what happens with this soft data versus hard data. I'm going to find out, because this is very relevant to what Ellul is talking about here. In terms of norms and planning, right, and economic techniques, and how they function on a mass scale, right? So check this out, because I just saw this today on the radio.
You may have heard the phrase recently that soft data is flashing warning signs for the economy. This is certainly true, but what exactly does that mean? That's what we're going to cover in this video. Stick around and you'll learn the key differences between soft data and hard data and how they both relate to today's complicated economic backdrop. Okay, so what is the difference between soft data and hard data? Well, soft data, as you see here on the right, is survey-based. It is sentiment-driven, so it's based on emotion. And it's forward-looking, so it's anticipating future economic activity. What is hard data? Hard data is quantitative. It is reported economic activity, and it's backward-looking. So it's series that tell you what happened in the past, but it's real data that's measured. So I think this cartoon.
Okay, so in this, ultimately what they seek to do with soft data is understand people's perceptions, their beliefs, their short-term decision-making processes, right? With the hard data, you're looking at macroeconomic information, stats and statistics, right? It's not about what people are doing, right? Now, the soft data you could use, right, for predictive capacity, right? Okay, but it's very unreliable. Why? Because you never know how people are going to behave, right? Scientists have been trying to determine that type of thing for centuries, right? If they had, understanding of how people are going to behave in the future, then they could simply just engineer society, give everybody what they want, right? So the fact is that, people are hard to predict, right? They're hard to systematize, right? But nevertheless, their decisions can be systematized, right? Okay, if you learn that those systematized decisions only have a certain scope, you can't use them to look at large-scale data, right? Just as you can't use hard data to look at future decisions, right? You can only use it to look at what happened in the past, right? So they said on the show that I was watching, right, that hard data is simply like looking at, looking at the rear view mirror to figure out where to go next, right? It won't really give you a full picture of that, right? So yeah, I'm gonna watch a couple more, minutes of this if it's really relevant. I mean, right? But just give you a picture of,
that I put together on the left sums up things pretty well. Soft data is the fortune teller, saying that inflation will ease in the future. But hard data is the accountant who's looking at the data and says, well, actually, CPI, so inflation, was up 0.4% last month.
Did you know that your brain health and aging...
Whoops. All right.
Can be supported simply by light? At the root of all our behavior,
What?
Emotions and thoughts are electrical...
Okay, so they're now coming clear and saying that those new age things are actually real through optical genetics and stuff. Crazy stuff.
So here's the trade-off. Soft data reflects expectations about the future, so it can give you a heads up on where economic activity is going, but it can also move ahead of the facts. So sometimes it can move in the wrong direction. Hard data, on the other hand, reflects what's actually happened, but it often lags behind real economic shifts. So stuff is normally changing in the economy before we get the reported hard data. So there's a back and forth that most investors and people must do. You have to look at the soft data to get a sense of where the economy is going, but then you need to check back in periodically with the hard data to make sure the soft data isn't sending you down the wrong path or isn't a head fake. So that brings us to the 3 important points I want to make in this video. First, we're going to look at some examples of hard data and soft data in these tables. So you see hard data on the left, and this is all real economic data, as I mentioned in the last slide. It's the unemployment rate, it's CPI, it's PPI, so different inflation
measures. If you look at this thing, right, and you go here and you search, soft data versus hard data. Okay, soft data, hard data. Right. You'll then see a series of explanations on this phenomenon. Right. Okay, but the key point is this. Okay, so why can soft data be used for the future, and why can't why does hard data, why can't it be used to make predictable choices? Right now, the fact is that it's the same thing that works in theories and models in science, right? I've said on the show before that they said that theories, right, they are greater in explanatory scope, right? But they they lose in I mean they're greater for predictability, because what theories are is like chains of data, right? So you could use them to explain you could use theories to predict things, right? But you can't use models to predict things, right? Models have explanatory scope, but they have low level of predictability, right? So it's an interesting exchange of how the information works, right? And it's the same thing with the planning, right? And the norms. Okay, it's the same function that planning and norms do, right? Norms are more the soft data, right? Whereas planning is more of the hard data, right? As Ellul was talking about, right? So, I think Ellul was very ahead of his time in explaining some of these terms, right? And of course, another two key points that he makes in the chapter, on economic systems, right, is that socialism and capitalism merge, right, into one system, right, that has features of both. Okay, the technological system has features of both, right? Okay, and he takes both points from Marx, and John Maynard Keynes and others, right, to make his point, right, that the key that's driving economic progress is technical invention, right, and a bunch of other factors, right, that are basically technical in nature, right? Now, what else is happening is the impulsion towards world trade, right? It becomes a world movement, right? So not only does large scale technology have a centralizing effect, right, but also the creation of economic systems, right, leads to economic models that are engaging in international trade, right? So it's a movement towards an international system, right, that's sort of being catalyzed, right, through economic techniques, right? And of course, all of these techniques obviously increase the scope of the state as well, right? That's another thing that Ellul was talking about, right? That once you have all this information, right, it's the administrative arms of the state that are basically going to be the buyers of these economic techniques, right, that the corporations are pumping out, right? Okay, because there's no institution that has the actual power or mechanism in order to carry out the conclusions of the planning and the norms, right? Okay, so I think that's a pretty good introduction there, right? Because we're only going to be here for 2 hours today, so I think I should get into the text here, and of course I'll start tomorrow with the going way back in the past, right, as I usually do, right, and looking at the development of these ideas, from a religious consciousness to a technological consciousness to ecological consciousness, right? So we'll be doing some of that tomorrow, right at the beginning of the show. But today, right? Okay, we're going to basically look at the autonomy of techniques. This is the third such show we've done where it's just Ellul, right? But yeah, obviously there'll be a couple more in the future, and we're doing a long study of the technological society, of which we're on page 183 at the section called Great Hopes, right? So yeah. So yeah, let me begin reading. It says economic systems confronted by technique. Okay, and he says Jean Marchal, right, or Marshall. I don't know how to say that, right? Marchal, right, is right in reducing to 3 systems the economic solutions presently recommended. Marchal's 3 systems are corporatism, planning, and liberal interventionism. But after having correctly observed that the system of planned economy is at the bottom no more rational than the system of the market economy, he is wrong in adding that the choice between 2 systems follows more from philosophic preferences than from truly scientific considerations. And that neither of these systems can pretend to total rationality. It is not philosophical preference which weigh one system against the other, says Ellul, or which lead to the choice between them. If I ask myself which of the 2 ought logically to prevail, I'm not referring to the philosophical choice of the masses. It is efficiency and success that lead history to adopt certain direction, not man who is in some sense who in some sense makes a decision. The problem does not concern personal decision or preference. It is a question of discerning what seems most probable. At the present moment, what system is the most efficient? I insist on the phrase "at the present moment." It means nothing to explain that liberal capitalism was extraordinarily efficient a century ago. This statement is true, and we do not wish to deny it. But what of the present moment? If we accept the idea that different human systems of action ought to correspond to different social, political, and economic circumstances, can we uphold the thesis that the past efficiency of liberal capitalism is a pledge of the present efficiency? Let us remember, from the point of view of efficiency, the Russian and German planned economies were successes, and the United States adopted a planned regime when it was challenged by war. It was added with all the care that the precaution presupposed by the critical democratic sensibility of the Anglo-Saxons. Okay, and there's actually people in history that, don't believe that economic systems, actually are consciously adopted, right? But they're actually, part of the circumstances, right, of a people, right? That's decided by lots of other factors, right? Natural, right? War and other factors. Okay, drought and all these types of things. Historically, it's been lots of factors that have, caused different economic systems to emerge. Actually, Rousseau wrote an entire book about how the climate causes the economic system, right? So there's some ideas behind that as well, right? And so it's interesting, right? Obviously, I don't know if anybody's familiar with the book Botany of Desire, right? But yeah, he literally says that certain plants, okay, that made themselves extremely easy to hybridize and plant in different climates and stuff, they basically, engineered entire societies, right? Like Ireland and like potatoes and stuff, right? So yeah. But yeah, let's check this out. So what causes economic systems to emerge, right? It's actually, there's been complex theories and ideas that link to that as well, right? Okay, obviously Marx thought that the communist system was a natural conclusion of the techno-industrial system, right? We read a lot of ideas about that, right? Okay, even Stalin thought the sole condition for socialism was industrialization, right? So yeah, let's go on here. He says shortly after reconversion in 1950, however, the Americans were obliged to embark on a new program. It was not merely an armaments program, which had certain advantages in connection with full employment, but a sound program encompassing a group of countries as indicated by Truman's point 4. These programs supposed a planned economy. It would seem that we are today unable to escape the facts, and the facts direct us toward the planned economy, regardless of our theoretical judgments in the matter. It is also often asked whether, after long periods of planned economy, the trend could be reversed. But this is another problem. We must ask why these fixed and rigid programs which emerge in a planned economy are adopted on a wider and wider scale, irrespective of the doctrines and intentions. The only reply is that planning permits us to do more quickly and more completely whatever appears desirable. Planning in modern society is the technical method. Okay, he says, is the technical method. Okay. It does not necessarily represent the best economic solution, but it does represent the best technical solution. We must demand of planning what it is able to do and nothing else. Marchal, therefore, is right in saying that the planned economy is not more rational than the market economy. It is not at all certain that it will result in any greater savings. I understand that one of the preoccupations of economic science is whether a result has been attained in the most economical manner possible. But this is possibly only an abstract point of view, and in any case is secondary. The same problem arises in war between one general who hesitates to sacrifice human life and another general who desires victory at any cost and is willing to sacrifice everything to gain it. Unfortunately, our experience since the 18th century has been that the general who hesitates to make the sacrifice is always defeated. Oh boy. The same problem is posed by dumping, quote unquote, in speed, intensity, and coherence. The technique of the plan proves superior. There may be waste. This is not completely certain, but it ought not to be forgotten that the charge of waste was one of the keenest criticisms developed against liberalism. So another encroachment of technique on liberalism. It never stops. It never stops molesting liberalism, does it? It's weird. Okay, it is possible, and obviously liberalism is molestable, right? It is a as Martin Luther said, reason is a whore, right? Okay. It's the problem. Huge problem. It is possible that the waste will be mitigated through an improvement of technique. We are not presently in a position to say one way or another. These observations might be summed up in the statement that one case technique exists and in the other it does not. But things are not so simple. It is standard practice to set up in opposition the possible solutions, for example, corporatism and planning. But we should guard against the possibility of that the contrast is completely artificial. We should guard against the abandoning ourselves to the judgment of the specialists. The important question is one of perspective. Every system is composed of different elements. We can put these elements in different perspectives and thereby arrive at different judgments. The specialist will fasten on certain specific elements. Either he will envisage a given system subspecies alternatatis, in which case his judgment will be that the planned economy and the corporate economy are clearly not identical, or he will envisage the system from the viewpoint of practical realization and all the facts of it, of its achievements. In this case, the structure of a corporation and of systems of corporative production will again be judged not to the same as a structure of the planned economy in genuinely concrete details. Okay, now he's coming to a pretty essential point. He says these elements of a given system, which are important in their specificity, lose importance, however, if instead of isolating the system, we try to reintegrate it into the complex of society and into the general course of history. When then takes on importance are the elements in their relations are of the highest importance, not mere internal consistency. It is connections between the economic system and the state with its technical means, different classes and structures in national form. Okay, this is what I explained, right? Okay, the only entity that's big enough, right, to carry out the the role of economic planning, right, is the state, right? So there's a necessary alliance between the state and the economic system. Now, obviously, that is what, the state is, the technological system, essentially. It's the objective factor of power, right? But actually, the economic system, where capitalism is basically the tool that it uses, right? So what's interesting is, to go back to the last chapter, right? The end of the last chapter. He says, psychology of the tyrant. Now we are studying the biology, the circulatory apparatus, the state, the digestive apparatus, the economy, the cellular tissue, man. Okay. Okay, so the thing that delivers sustenance and the thing that delivers circulation of the vital elements, right? Both economy and the state, right? And of course, the tyrant that he's talking about is the artificial man of technique, right? Okay, to borrow a line from Hobbes about the artificial man, right, who has said it's like he's describing a golem, right? Which is interesting, right? But yeah, it says it is a question of discerning what seems most probable at the present moment, what system is most efficient. I insist on the phrase. Oh wait, what the fuck? I accidentally fell back a page. Sorry about that. Okay, here we go. Okay, yeah, we're on page 186. He says, and we do not mean here theoretical connections, but real ones resulting from the internal necessity of the regime. Okay, he's talking about connections between the state and the economy. For this point of view, the corporate economy, right? Of course, we live in basically a system of corporate socialism, right? The corporate economy and the planned economy come singularly close together, to the degree that both systems, A, take a firm hold on the economy, B, manage it on the basis of exact mathematical methods, C, integrate it into a Promethean society, which excludes all chance, D, centralize it in the framework of nation and state. The corporate economy today has no chance of success except as a state system. E, cause it to assume an aspect of formal democracy to the total exclusion of real democracy. And F, exploit all possible techniques for controlling men. The kinship of these two systems is obvious in spite of the difference in material nature, he says. Okay, and I'll read that again. He says the link between the state and the economic systems, okay, and the system of the planning economy and the market economy is this. A, they both take a firm hold on the economy. They manage it on the basis of exact mathematical methods. They integrate it into a Promethean society, which excludes all chance. They centralize it in the frameworks of the nation and state. The corporate economy today has no chance of success except as a state system, cause it to assume an aspect of formal democracy, the total exclusion of real democracy, and exploit all techniques for controlling men. The end pursued by both the corporate economy and the planned economy and the means adopted to reach this end are identical. Only the outward forms change. It is useless to compare these forms. History will decide which form is best adopted to the common end. And remember earlier he said it's not human decisions that are causing this, right? Okay, it's the system of planning, right? Okay, so it does not seem to me to be exact, therefore, to hold that there are 3 possible economic pathways. There are only 2. And only one of them entails exploitation of these techniques. The other one describes the chief place to nature. Here again, it is the old opposition between the natural and the artificial representing the expression of art or techne. The complete identity rather than the resemblance between corporatism and planning ought to be noted. Corporatism is adapted to the traditional cultivated bourgeois mentality, planning to innovation, proletarian, pseudo-scientific mentality. But the attitude of the two is fundamentally the same. And speaking objectively, the result, insofar as the real structure of human society is concerned, will be identical. I think they have combined it into like one word, right, called managerial. Right, like one of our homies talks about that, right? The managerial economy. You know. As to the choice between the two, the system that can best utilize the techniques proposed by the economists will prevail. Up to now, there's no doubt that the planned society seems better able than the corporate society to utilize these techniques. The corporate society brings to bear a whole complex of non-technical considerations, sentimental or doctrinaire, which the planned society rejects. Okay, so he's saying, you know, out of the 2 factors, right, soft data and hard data, it's hard data that takes the precedence, I mean, pretty much. I mean, it may be objected that in the planned society, politics intervene on a major scale, and that this is not technique. It would then, he says, I would then ask, what kind of politics is meant? As we shall see, politics have tended to become technical In the countries that have adopted planning, the serious study of the opposition between politics and economics and of the relation between them dates back perhaps 20 years. Yeah, you know, it's funny. They asked the lady on the news, you know, whether they should put more funding in understanding economic data, right? She literally says, once, you know, things happen, then you can't go back and get the data. So she says we need to get the data now. Right. So she says we can't just miss a bunch of data, you know, because you can't get the data back, right? You have to measure things as they're happening. Right. So it's crazy critical. You know, what Ellul says, that the data have to be applied up to date at the present moment. There's simply no other choice, right? So he says, I would then ask what kind of politics is meant. As we shall see, politics have tended to become technical in the countries that have adopted planning. Yep, reflects the attitudes of that lady, right? Right, she says it's of critical importance to get the data, right? On time. Right. The serious study of the opposition between politics and economics and the relations between them dates back perhaps 20 years. The opposition has tended to become less and less real as the two have a common denominator in technique. When the economy and the political milieu are simultaneously subjected to the technical method, the problem of the interference of politics in the economy ceases to have major importance and no longer has the same significance as personal influence, private interest, or moral judgments. The alignment of the two has not yet been fully completed, and this constituted the particular weakness of Hitler's Germany. But it takes more than a decade to overcome technically great political and economic machines. Yeah, blessings to square peg round hole, Che brother. Browns boy, Max, Lizard Tree, Ragamuffin, Dr. D. And of course, Hostile Hyperborean. Fucking OG. Here, hold on. Let me put this link here. Man, it's pretty quiet out here today, huh?
Yeah, man, I definitely don't want to interject while you're on a roll. There are a lot of things that you've said so far, especially in the opening.
Oh, yeah. Just chime in whenever you like. I trust you.
Yeah. But I also like the fact that you know, stay focused. I know the other night it was a weekend and some people had been drinking or whatever, which is totally fine, but at least try to stay focused, right? Try to get some sort of message out.
Oh yeah, it actually helps us cloak the material. You know.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean, right? Because some of the
I'm like a laser beam, dude. I'm focused. I'm like so persistent on focusing on the goal or whatever.
Oh yeah. But some of that, you know, stuff helps us cloak the material. I mean, so that we don't end up totally, you know, we're, you know, like getting the attention of some bad people, right? So
yeah, it's really interesting, man. You've never read from Nimrod de Rosario at all?
No.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, it's so crazy how on point he was and ahead of his time he was. He was before the internet, so he supposedly passed away before the internet, right? And I say supposedly because we don't know really what happened to him. The official story is he died in the early 90s, but so the internet was budding, right? Like he accumulated this knowledge, and there's so many things that you say that correspond to the points that he makes about society and the road that we're headed down. So like one of them specifically was the aspect of the metals, right? You mentioned metals and needing a particular class that we would call metallurgists. And it's funny that even biblically they talk about what a metallurgist is and how corruptive it can be, right? Like, and even Masons speak about metallurgists. So in their language, and to be fully transparent, I know this is probably going to shake up the chat, which I don't really care because I can explain myself. But I was initiated into Masonry. I'm a 32nd degree Scottish Rite Mason, a Knight Templar, 3rd degree Blue Lodge Mason. I'm a past master as well. But we also talk about Tubal Cain and the lineage of the Cainites and the metallurgy and what that is, and they link metallurgy to artifices, right? They call him the first Tubal Cain, the first artificer, is what they state in the language, and that right there has everything to do with techne, or what you would call in English technique, right? Like this idea that we need to impart meaning to the forms. Right. First, it takes a human being to add the meaning to the forms, which we would call later tools. Like highly developed forms by the human mind would be called a tool. And these tools eventually, like you said, are being intimately linked to culture, take hold in the cultural structure in our minds, and they begin to impart meaning onto us, where we rely on them to give us meaning. It's really weird how that works. There's like a trade-off or a transitory state between techne and the human being. And I was doing some, I've always had the Technological Society. I've had Ellul's book. I've never read it. But ever since our meeting the other night, I was dabbling in it on and off while I had the time to, and kind of brushing up on Ellul's philosophy. And I noticed that on a brief search, and I don't really rely on Wiki a lot, right? But I just wanted a quick, summary real quick before I started to touch on the Technological Society. And I noticed that it said, and you can tell me if this is wrong, if Wiki has this wrong. It says right here, let me see here, on technique. In it, Ellul set forth 7 characteristics of modern technology that make efficiency a necessity. One is rationality, artificiality, automatism,
self-augmentation. Yep.
Yeah. Self-augmentation, monism, universalism, and autonomy, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, it's funny that in that he mentions the artifice, right? The idea of like the being imparting meaning on forms. We call it art. Like,
by the way, I spent a huge time on that section. Actually, if you go back to these presentations, if you go to the Dragon versus Tiger series, Atlantis versus Shambhala, if you go to part 10, that's where I started reading Ellul, right? Okay. So part 10, I started a couple of introductory thoughts. I gave like 2.5 discussions on metaphysics, and then I launched into the discussion on technique. So yeah.
I'm finding that his philosophy is really sharp. He's spot on, and you're right when you say he was ahead of his time, for sure. I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, he's hugely influenced by like Nietzsche and Kierkegaard and all these people.
Yeah, when it said he was a continentalist, I was like, okay, so I can pretty much generally understand where he's coming from, who he studied. To be a self-proclaimed continentalist, like that tells me a lot, I'm not too fond of the analytical stuff, like Bertrand Russell and stuff. And it seems like he stopped. He's more of an idealist. It says he's a Christian anarchist. I don't know how true that is.
It's 100%. He wrote a book on it.
Okay, cool. So that tells me a lot too, right there.
Yeah, he wrote a book, I think, called Christianity and Anarchy. He was a Reformed Calvinist.
Got it.
So, okay. So it's interesting. And he also protected the Jays when the Nazis invaded France. So he was there.
Yeah. I noticed the last paragraph that you read. It was kind of stark there. And I think that there's partially the Christian sentiment there, and possibly Jewish sympathies, or J sympathies. Sorry, excuse me.
Yeah, he actually writes in his book on the city. Actually, I'm going to start my show tomorrow about this. About Cain, the builder of cities.
Yeah.
Right. So that's yeah. So that's actually a quote by Ellul. He said Cain was the first builder of cities.
Yeah, he may have been a Mason
Yeah.
because that's exactly what they talk about in Masonry.
He actually gave a considerable amount of commentary on the Bible as well. So he wrote tons of books in theology. Actually, he deals with a range of subjects. So he deals with, sociology, obviously. He did, in which he takes like a sort of a Marxist, a more like a neo-Marxist approach, and obviously he's an anarchist, right? And then he also, so he wrote a considerable number of books on political theories and stuff. He wrote a bunch of books on theology, right? Of
Yeah,
course,
it says he was a theologian. That surprised me.
Yeah,
Being a
huge.
continentalist and a theologian is pretty unique.
Yeah, yeah, that's great as well, because that's literally the two subjects that I studied. I'm hugely into those two subjects. I love theology.
Me too.
I love even like occult stuff. I read a bunch of stuff. So yeah, I read tons of different stuff in theology. Mysticism, all sorts of books. Then philosophy, I read tons of books. Right. And then obviously political theory. I started out studying, political theory and trying to study, media and journalism and stuff like that. That was, my main interest when I started. I would just look at the news, look at how they transmit information, look at the psychology of people that sort of receive the information. How mass media affects people. I was obsessed with that. And then I sort of went into political philosophy because I noticed like a lot of the memes, that come from, all of those, all those political slogans and stuff actually come from political philosophy, right? So then I started to study political philosophy and political theory, right? And then that led me to just study philosophy, right? And then once I started to study philosophy, I noticed a lot of the philosophers were occultists. Right?
Yeah, so interesting. I'm not trying to
interrupt,
interrupt, but I started in occultism. My whole thing was heavily ideal and spiritual. So I started with occultism, and then I found my way subtly into the geopolitical theology. Obviously, is intimately related with occultism. But then I realized that philosophy. It took me a while to get to what philosophy is, and I'm like, damn, why didn't I start with this? Why didn't anybody teach me this? So I'm not academically trained. I'm an autodidact. So I just started reading books.
Because you could go to college and study philosophy and you'll become a nobody, a big loser, right? So they're like, what good is philosophy? But
man, it's everything. It's like philosophy can actually remedy a lot of the logical fallacies that most people suffer from when they take on subjects as big as occultism or politics.
People don't know the link between philosophy and symbolism. You know what I mean? Right? It's huge.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's interesting. But to sum up where I was going with that about the metallurgy and the autonomy and his 7 classifications, Nimrod and the what we call Hyperborean wisdom would state to keep your eye on the end goal, which is that technique is actually going to shape humanity, which it seems that Ellul understands that, and it conditions humanity into what we call Manu. It's a very obscure term. It's a Sanskrit term, but essentially there's also a Greek term accompanied with this idea we call entelechy. There's this finality that the cosmos is trying to get the man to arrive at. And it's basically an automaton where he worships the cosmos and this one. You notice a couple other classifications of his was monism and universalism. Those go hand in hand with techne, which is not good. We need to be anti-monism. We need to be anti-universalism, because after all, humanity by definition is a conglomerate of individuals. This end goal for techne is to remove what we currently understand as individual or individuation in Jungian terms. We won't have that. It'll be the death of the aspiration of individuality. Anyway, so the first thing you opened up with metallurgy, there's so much that you've said.
Yeah, if you read that section, he kind of goes that they're sort of built upon one another, right? So so automation is basically built upon the need for efficiency, You know, and then self-augmentation is built upon, you know, how different techniques link up with each other. You know, and then and I think he also has a section called the necessary linking up of techniques in between all of that. Right. So he's also talking about how the system begins to function as a whole. Right. And that's when he starts talking about this section on monism and universalism. You know, so once the system functions as a cohesive whole, right, then techniques are applied everywhere. You know, so monism is required for universalism. In other words, I mean, right? Is what I'm trying to say. So it's actually interesting if you read that part. In the character of technique. You know, I think it's chapter 2 or whatever. Right.
Okay.
And yeah, it's interesting how he builds one upon the other. And yeah, obviously efficiency as a goal, right, instead of a means, right, starts to transform, you know, the notion of technology. And then basically just as you said, it starts to create man, right, because man is just a means to, you know, improving efficiency, right? So I mean so that's what happens.
And earlier you said something that also struck me, because I was trying to say the other night about how nature is a sham, which is nature is particularly not beneficial for man when we come into it. You said something, and I'm trying to recall it at the moment. Climate and economy. You were saying how there's a theory that economy could have been derived from the climate, right? Was that Rousseau? Do I have that right?
Yeah, Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Yeah.
Okay, so isn't that interesting? Think about that a little deeper, right? Like that climate could be responsible for forcing economy on us. It's like another part of the program in the steps into getting us to technate and
European society. The Iceman inheritance, as it were. Right?
The Iceman inheritance. Yeah. I have that book.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So
yeah, which is interesting. I don't know. So that should, if anybody has a Gnostic slant, I mean, that should be, I don't know. It applies to that sort of philosophical view.
Yeah. Yeah, it says that we can't switch people. So I guess I can't switch these boxes. It literally says we are currently experiencing issues with the swapping of streams. Awkwardly worded. Swapping of streams. Don't you mean the swapping of the people in the stream? The feature has been temporarily yeah.
Was he Lola J?
No, he was a Frenchman.
Okay. But I mean, you can be a Frenchman, right, and still be a J. So, like, what do you know for sure?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think his family was from Bordeaux from many generations back.
Okay.
So he's actually he's quite indigenous to France.
Okay.
But yeah, there's all sorts of J's in every country for sure. Every European country. I mean, Spanish J's, German J's, French J's. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And so let me play some music. Be right back with more Ellul. And yeah. So that's what's gonna happen. Yeah, I made some music here. Videos. Questionable themes, and we may get struck down for it. So I think I'll leave myself on the screen or whatever. But yeah.
piece of the problem, pulling in chance to win, evidence in the bin of corruption within the thick and fabric of our society. Who's got no favour with the queen bee or knows the dirt between her toes? Inquisition, power rose, time for the lies to be exposed. Corruption of the highest degree, affecting everybody
outlandishly,
over land and sea. Corruption.
Unity gone, seven distinct pillage. Arm to the teeth, feet creep to the village. Army to supply our greed, how it works. Enter the enterprise, alert to get the perks. Initiated, to be contaminated, to be continued, never anticipated. Land emancipated, mitigated, and negated. Better endeavor before it's all gone, faded. When the weight of it done been sifted, distributed, so we all gotta lift it. Till then, children, feel the boulder. Summer's getting hotter, winter colder. It's high noon, guns spraying for the holster. Only got him in the holster, so free. The high cross tomb decree, philosophy getting lost in the future. And tossed to wait to see who the boss administering complacency chasing me. All pop tree when I MC. Too many MCs just not the easy. Top mix to top the CD. Easy as downloading from an MP3 file. Faster than fast food can take your empty belly like a balloon. Soup off the tune, the loom and rotation. Free of innovation, just a limited bow with no imagination. Like one nation, still a damnation. Ignorance far from bliss to stagnation. Fuck one nation, we talking to all nation. Coming through with a true vibration. Penetrate the borderline without hesitation. Got to one sport, border got squad in my creation. No time wasting.
Eruption of corruption.
Yeah, welcome back. Yeah, if you pay attention to that so-called music video, it actually show you how the United States government created Zarqawi in Iraq. Crazy stuff. And but yep. Check this out. The serious study of the opposition between politics and economics and of the relations between them dates back perhaps 20 years. This opposition has tended to become less and less real as the two have found a common denominator in technique.
Was she in her bed the whole time?
Totally agree with that. You know,
She was like, I want to go in
we got the brother here. Blessings. Little babies. Hopefully everything's okay. But yeah, all the people here, I greatly appreciate you guys. But yeah, this whole thing about this whole chapter is basically about the same topic, right? About how technique and economics and politics become linked, right? So yeah, this statement right here, the opposition has tended to become less and less as the two have found a common denominator in technique, right? Politics and economics, right? When the economy and political milieu are simultaneously subjected to technical method, the problem of the inference of politics in the economy ceases to have major importance. It is no longer has the same significance as personal influence, private interest, or moral judgments. The alignment of the last two has not yet been fully completed, and this constituted the particular weakness of Hitler's Germany. But it takes more than a decade to overcome technically great political and economic machines. All these considerations attest to the fundamental likeness of the corporate economy and the planned economy. Only these two economic attitudes are left. They should not be considered, however, in their extreme aspects. A planned society does not imply every detail is integrated into the plan. Nor does the plan provide for the humblest means. Liberalism, likewise, cannot be understood in its entirety. One scarcely speaks any longer of a liberal interventionism, in which the distinction is made between the policy of structure, improvement of distribution, and the policy of prosperity, influence on economy itself, and certain means which have been decided upon, for example, money. The state no longer leaves the economy to itself, but the state intervention is flexible enough to allow the entrepreneurs some initiative and grant controlled freedom to the market. This is the attitude of the best minds in France. They are guided not only to the desire for equilibrium and a traditional confidence in the middle of the road, but also by a preoccupation with human and nonconformist elements. I do not deny that these elements are desirable, or that attributing a strategic role to the state while reserving tactical freedom to its citizens is a tempting concept. But I'm searching for the possible here. Would such an economic orientation really satisfy technical conditions? Is it realize? Oh my God! Realizable. Good Lord! In depth. Excuse me. The answer is certainly yes, if we abstract it from reality. But when we come back to reality, it is immediately evident that the liberal orientation represents the most difficult of the possible alternatives. Most difficult of the possible alternatives. The equilibrium we seek between technique and freedom and between the state and private enterprise is not stable. It is continually being put to the test and must be ceaselessly reestablished. The tension required of the individual in this struggle seems to me to raise a grave question. Is it feasible to obtain the individual's ceaseless effort to establish the very framework of his activity? And will his activity within this framework be sustained? In other words, is this equilibrium the best possible condition for economic development? Will not the energy employed to secure the structural framework be dissipated in some other quarter? One must take account, after all, of human nature. This is even more true of a liberally supervised economy than of a totally planned economy, precisely because the former entails to a certain degree of freedom for the individual. The human being, left to his own devices, will not choose the most difficult paths or the tightest situation. He will choose the line of least resistance. I'm speaking of the man of the 20th century, the product of the society based on ease, security, and comfort. The average man like myself or the entrepreneur of my acquaintance has no great desire to maintain his equilibrium at the expense of a ceaseless recreating of failing virtue. Under these conditions, he finds that things go badly. He far prefers a simple solution, summary, no doubt, and brutal, but assuring him an easy road. Since means of direct intervention are available, the average person prefers that they be used, unless private interests lead him to prefer the freedom of the great beasts of the jungle. The partisans of direct intervention present two conditions as necessary to its realization. First, a reform of the state. See, every time they try to reform the state, they set free the, obviously the corporatism, and as you said earlier, corporatism and planning are literally the same thing. Because the methods are technical in both respects, right? So what's interesting is that letting go of the state and trying to reform the state, you constantly empower corporatism, which then leads back to the state for planning, so that it can engender individual, finally create a fail safe for the individual, right?
It's a pendulum. It's like a pendulum swing, yeah?
Oh yeah. The dark pendulum swings.
Dark,
And
light.
and Saturn swings his scythe as well. You know what I'm saying? At this point.
Yeah. See the rings right now because they're edge on.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. Hasn't been that way for a while.
But yeah, he says okay, so he says first. Okay, so the liberals, right? They say first you got to reform the state, which is henceforth to transcend all private interest and be endowed with competent organisms for flexible and concealed intervention. Second, a precise and complete economic theory dealing with the sequence of economic events and the means of intervention. These two conditions amount, however, to a single condition, the primacy of technique. But then the same problems recur. There is difficulty of preventing techniques from going to the limit of its potentialities. There is difficulty presented by the conjunction of economic and political techniques, which is mutually reinforce one another, and so on. Is it credible that a state which has become really technical, we shall study its characteristics in the following chapter, will be satisfied with half measures? Nothing of the kind. The seeds of destruction are in the very conditions proposed for the establishment of the economic form represented by liberal interventionism. Thence the fundamental instability which renders the attempt to establish such an economic form not a final solution, but merely an intermediate stage. This development, that is, from liberal interventionism to fully planned society, is more certain because liberal interventionism has usually corresponded neither with the general tendencies of society nor to the historical situation. I certainly do not wish to imply that such an economic form from the standpoint of economic science is not valid or justified, but when considered in the framework of today's reality, it loses its validity. The general tendencies
of modern society are too well known for me to dwell on the contradictions they offer to liberal interventionism. It is said that this solution, which allows for concessions and would abandon certain values it believes cannot be saved in order to preserve certain others, represents an underhanded way of establishing collectivism. My answer is that the problem is essentially spiritual. The economic orientation called liberal interventionism presupposes a spiritual revolution that has not yet begun. Again, the historical situation is eminently unfavorable to the philosophy of the middle of the road. Herein lies the challenge that is made both in war and peace to the people seeking to orient themselves in this direction. The simple presence of the Soviet Union acts as a catalyst and transforms the international situation of the semi-liberal countries. Whether they have direct economic relations with the Soviets or not, here we have a planned economic system in competition with certain other systems. As Marshall has shown, when contact is established, the capitalistic countries, out of commercial necessity, are obliged to align themselves to the Soviet system. In other words, planning techniques forces the competitors to imitation. The effect has been brilliantly analyzed by Gottfried Haberler. He demonstrates that the development of state socialism and collectivism is reflected in the whole economic complex and results in a generalized nationalism. A generalized nationalism. Oh, nationalization.
There you go.
Of economic activity and in state monopolies of foreign commerce. A country engaged in planning its economic activity will establish quantitative controls over foreign trade in order to adapt it to general national planning. Quotas and exchange controls are established, which are then necessarily reflected in the commerce of nations that aspire to free activity. Haberler astutely notes the measures of international commerce taken by free nations in response to the other countries with planned economies. In turn, result, if they coordinated and planned, in marked degree of internal economic planning. State monopolies of international commerce cannot result in multilateral and non-discriminatory commerce. Haberler shows also that commercial agreement on a liberal basis is not possible between nations with a planned economy and nations with a non-planned economy. In view of the disturbance from abroad, then how is it possible to maintain the delicate mechanism of policy of prosperity based on individual enterprise? The planned economy seems to represent the most probable solution, imposed by economic technique and desired by the greater part of the modern society, not only of men, but of powers. The real problem is not to judge, but to understand. Oh, yeah. Isn't it always?
Judging is not our job anyways, and really.
Oh, yeah. Creek Mary, blessings, madam. Happy to see you. And anybody else here? Wow, same people.
We got some
Good old
devoted
folks. There's 19 people watching. Who are you? Because there's literally 4 people in the chat. So I wonder who these 18 ghosts are.
There's people watching that aren't watching.
Oh yeah.
But, oh, it's not Saturday. Never mind.
Oh, we got Bex. Hola.
Bex.
Is that Marla Singer from Fight Club, or
Yeah, blessings. We got Orange. Thank you for reaching out. I appreciate you guys. Sir. Yeah, but yeah, I love that line. Right? Not to judge, but to understand. The real problem is to not to judge, but to understand. And also, not to, you know, obviously it's desirable, right, that individual actions and you know, people who are capable, right, guide human society, right? But you know, the fact is that you know, that's not what's happening, right? It's you know, society is operating on the basis of technical necessity. So, I mean, you know, systems impart means, you know, complexity imbues assimilation, you know, and, you know, the complexification of means, the massification of means, right, necessarily leads to, you know, a consolidation, you know, of human actions and principles, right? So it's not philosophies and individual actions that are guiding the scope of change. Right, I think Ellul is making a seriously great point that I think if more people analyze, right, they'll understand, right, about you know, that technology is not neutral. You know, you can't be neutral on a moving train, right? The technological system is progressing and even accelerating, right? And the changes that it has on human society cannot be predicted. Long-term changes that it has on human society cannot be predicted. Right, so we're going to actually take a huge study about, right, when we get to anti-tech revolution, why and how. Of course, I'll drop the link in the chat if anybody wants to come up and talk. There's now 20 people watching. You know, you guys, please let us know how you feel. Super quiet night.
We're listening. I think they should have used that one word. What was it? It was like realizable. That should have been
realizable.
It should be mentalizable because it's so much easier to say. Realizable. That was a hard one.
Oh yeah. I get up in some psilocybin mushrooms either today or tomorrow. Tomorrow or the day after that.
Nice.
And Wednesday, you know, we'll be doing a huge show. You know, I mean, not really huge in any scale of things, but yeah, it'll just be continuing the same topics. Right, but yeah, tomorrow the beginning of the show is going to be a little bit different. It's not going to start with Ellul, but start with Skolomowski and his views on moving from a religious consciousness to a technological consciousness to ecological consciousness. Right, and all that. Mimsy, we did begin with some of Rant's music in the beginning of the episode. You know what I mean? So yeah. Shout out to the homie. Okay, all the people in the chat hate Hostile Hyperborean. Welcome to the chat, Hostile Hyperborean. Tough crowd for sure. It's been engineered that way. I mean, through many years. I mean, but yeah, these people are very
Rude,
you know,
like they didn't train them right.
well, I don't know. It's not for me to train, but
yeah. Well, who's their
Hey,
mom?
I did want to bring up earlier. You mentioned norms. Do you mean norms in the philosophical sense?
Weird. That's what I.
I think he's meaning it in a general sense in terms of what they were saying about soft data, right? Which is like people's preferences, right? That the
Yeah,
system
yeah.
wants to, the system wants to know what people's preferences are, and then they'll use that, right?
Yes.
But that's different from actual stats on, like numbers and figures about setting prices and wages and all that sort of thing.
So it is in a philosophical sense. In philosophy, norms means ought or may. Not is. Norms is like if you grabbed a philosophical dictionary and you looked up the word
I know,
norms,
like normative rather than
yeah.
doing that.
So like
And
it is, they seem to be obsessed with shaping norms. They're never living in the is. It's always ought be or may become, something like that.
I'm like,
Which is interesting because they're so fixed on analytics. So they're so focused on the hard data, but mentally, philosophically, they live in the future. They live trying to grasp. They're sort of like techno prophets. They yearn to be techno prophets.
you could also bilocate, simultaneous. Who says it's mutually exclusive, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but all technology is a reification of thought. I mean, so it's like, as you said, they're trapped in the future, trapped in, and that's the thing is that, not all of making is actually doing. I mean, it's really weird, right?
And nothing I do is very important.
And that's what they say is the unreasonable ineffectiveness of mathematics. Is that it actually it's the problem or the gap between theory and theory and application. Huge gap there.
There is.
Right, and engineers are very aware of that problem. So
yeah, because engineers
the problem
actually
is,
have.
yeah.
Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
Yeah, you're right, because engineers have to be, right? Because what they theorize has to become practical. There has to be like a 1-to-1 ratio there. So they're the most aware of it. There are others, like people who strive to be real scientists in the true sense of the term of science. People who want to prove their theory, right? But it's funny how the techies or the technique priests, the technique priesthood, they're the most off when it comes to trying to force the soft data to become realized. It never happens. That's why they always push dates when they like predict something to happen. And then you can even say that about to a certain extent Ray Kurzweil, right? Like, even though they hype him up and Bill Gates and such would say he's like the modern Sibylline, like he has more prophecies than we think that don't come to fruition. You just hear about the ones that did, and most of them have really, really sound hard analytics, hard data, so where you can actually trace trends. It's not that hard when you have a sound trend over 100+ years, right? Like it's pretty easy to make a prophetic judgment.
Especially whenever you have advanced algorithms.
Yeah, that too, with the assistance of advanced algorithmic processing. Exactly. Yes. But mostly when they make these far-fetched claims that usually defy natural law, what we call natural law. I know that would probably irritate a guy from the other night. I mean it in the physics sense, right? Like we have these things that seemingly are repeatable scientifically. I'm not saying that I would buy into that, but what we call natural law, when these techies try to predict something into the future, that is in the realm of in the realm of natural law and societal, it never comes to fruition.
That's when we get stopped. And you can do things like, it's prediction, but I use pendulums. And
occultists are more accurate I would say, than techies who seem to be based in reality. They portray themselves as being based in reality, but when they talk about something that is to come to fruition, it never works. It's always, oh well, 2012, oh well, 2014, oh well, give us till 2025, it'll be realized, and it never does. They'll even say that it does, but it never actually is realized or experienced by individuals outside of their paradigm. Like they would say that 2021 was realized. They would say that 2030 is going to be realized. Watch, when 2030 comes, they'll say the 2030 agenda was realized, but it isn't, and it's just another part of the idea that they need you to believe that it does. It's just like religion.
Well, good luck with that.
Yeah. Just like Ted Kaczynski when he was reading the other night from what was that? That was anti-tech revolution, right?
Yeah.
He was talking about how they create a religious mythos. That's what this is, or whatever. Their inability to realize the soft data, to prophesy the hard data into the future is manifest as a religious mythos. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm just saying they're scared of the girly side, the like softer side of it. Like, it's all right. They'll figure it out, or they won't. I'll have to kill them.
Uh-oh.
Greetings, ultimate exit people.
Just kidding.
This is a new thing for me, as most things are for everybody these days. It's all part of learning to inhabit the net.
Nick Land is
you all have a
based.
t-shirt, right?
He just wants it to
This
hurry
is
and
the
blow up.
retro Cold War flavored version. The distinction between the politics of loyalty and its other is more productively drawn between hot and cold collectivities. Hot collectivities are based on passionate attachments. Cold collectivities are based on pragmatic calculations. Hot collectivists have motherlands and fatherlands. Cold collectivists shop around. Loyalty in this ideological sense is essentially a macro-social phenomenon. Disloyalists are probably no less loyal to their families, friends, and dogs, although they are quite likely to have smaller and more highly nucleated families, more carefully selected friends, and cats or lizards rather than dogs. There are discussions to be had about differential rates of divorce and parental abandonment within the spectrum, and we can be confident that the loyalist social conservative constituency will ensure such a discussion takes place. The pure loyalist idea of society is that of a big family, while for disloyalists, it is a functional arrangement of strangers. If strangers seem somehow like a bad thing, your loyalism is showing. Humans are excitable social animals. If this spectrum were reducible to loyalty and its denial, there is little reason to doubt that matters would have been already resolved definitively in the loyalists' favor. That the spectrum exists as an ideological generator and not merely a measure of departure from virtue is due to the positive sense of the disloyal pole, which is competence. If there is a single striking pattern.
Okay, so that's it. Then he goes on to explain these other political theories that focus on cold collectivities, right? But what he's talking about, the cold collectivities, he's saying these are things that define cold collectivities: switching, defection, shopping around, window shopping ideologies, and the sort, objectivity, deracination, xenophilia, openness. I think he has one for hot collectivities too.
I bet you hypergamy's in there.
Oh yeah,
shopping around.
Yeah, affinities, the culture of the Anglosphere. Right, techno culture is tied to culture of the Anglosphere, right? The commercial model, virtual network technologies, right? So yeah, I think that relates to the norms and planning thing, the soft data and the hard data thing. Right? And he's saying that these are ideological forms. They're not just one step removed from the virtue of hot collectivity. Right?
Yeah, everything is ideological form. And when I say everything, separate those two words. Everything, quote, end quote.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's very Platonic, but I don't know. I buy into it. I believe the ideal philosophy. It doesn't mean that I'm idealist only. When somebody says they buy into a philosophy, it doesn't restrict them to that and no other philosophy. But idealism is definitely apparent to me. And it seems that all the forms are ideal. Because if you take away the subject, like this is probably going to agitate philosophers out there, but like the Kantian thing in itself, like if you don't have that, what is an observer? There wouldn't be anything to actually discuss or dissert. Like we wouldn't be even having this conversation right now unless it was unless there was some sort of ideal. And it's inherent that when we look upon things, whether they be being or not, they are forms that are observed by a subject. So I can't remove the ideal from the form. That's how I see it. Like if I remove the ideal from the form, then there is no subjective observer, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely on the side of Plato versus Aristotle. Right?
By far, the scholastic school that is trash. Like Aristotle, I think by collapsing the Platonic model, like cutting there's a whole like you understand the Platonic hierarchy of, or what he would call the great chain of being. It seems like Aristotle was like anti-nous, anti-abstraction of nous. It's like he collapsed it all and like made shortcuts. I understand that he added categories or essentially created categories, but I don't see that as beneficial to the human condition. I think it only made things more complicated. It helps drive techne.
Yeah, actually, I've said a long time on this show that there's two ideas, right, that somewhat relate to each other, right? And one is, well, actually, there's three, right? And I usually say there's compartmentalization of knowledge, desacralization of nature, and then the myth of more the pseudo eschatology of progress, right? So it kind of covers distinct areas, right? So I say, well, desacralization of nature and myth of progress, that's spatiotemporal, sort of dislodging, right?
Elaborate a little further when you relate those two to spatiotemporality.
Like basically, myth of progress has to do with, like change. Obviously there's tons of ideas related to like apotheosis of the state, evolution, right? All these different like little ideas.
That one I grasp, but let's explain the desacralization of nature related to spatiotemporality.
Well, that's more like the being and becoming thing, right? So it's like dislodging of space, and also I think it relates to just the post-geological ideal of technology, right? So, because there's a lot of, a lot of the techies have a post-geological ideal, right? Post-human, that's obvious, right? But it's post-Earth, right?
Yeah, I think I can grasp that. It's a little abstract. I want to hear more, but if you don't have time to right now, that's fine.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think it has to do with just you know, like basically getting rid of the body, getting rid of nature, right? So I think that like I basically explained like like that they created a dialectic, right? Of basically um nature versus time, and then and then mind versus language, right? So they basically cut man and nature out of it, right? So what you have left is time and language, right? I mean, right, and that's basically what the analytical sphere basically is composed of, right? But but yeah, the analytical or the technical sphere, really, and but yeah, I think so yeah, so they're yeah, so I think that becomes spatially dislodged in terms of the foggy somatic attachment, separation from nature, right? And the temporal is because of the acceleration of the technosphere, right?
Yeah, no, I'm
And
on the
because
same
of
page
yeah,
now.
oh yeah,
So let me play devil's advocate with you, and let's just
sure.
give me an example of nature, the relationship, how human beings can exist in quote unquote nature minus a techne. Can you eradicate techne from the human condition in nature?
I don't think you have to do it all the way.
Yeah, yeah, I don't think it's possible.
So
You
you
know what I
want
mean?
to
Because
redefine techne into something more natural?
oh yeah,
More sustainable with nature, yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
or just I think nature is technique. I think technique is an aspect of nature. So I think
Yeah.
Ellul, where he draws a sharp line between artificial and um organic or whatever, or non artificial. And I think that that's false. I mean, personally,
Yeah, I think everything that exists in matter is natural,
yeah, like
technically.
like what I said is I said nature is God made technology, and technology is man made nature.
Mm-hmm. It's reciprocal.
Yeah, yeah,
Nice.
no, that I agree with those definitions.
You know what I mean, right?
But it
So
seems like anything that man interjects himself into, unless you classify man as nature, do you concede that is man nature?
Duh.
um po-
Yeah.
yeah, you know what I mean.
Okay,
I
so
think
even when
man is
man,
natural. Yeah, I think man is not only subject to nature, but I think see, this is where we were
Consciousness.
getting into it the other day, because nature and man and technique, we put those three on the table.
Mhm.
So what I'd like to say is that I don't think they're as separate as we'd like to believe, right?
Yeah, you either have them all together or there's conflict. They have to be like, yeah, yeah, because as soon as man interferes or injects his ideas into nature via techne, then it's not organic anymore. It's not natural, right? Like, because nature isn't permitting it. Unless you define man as nature, then whatever he's doing with nature is natural.
But it's not always in balance with nature.
Exactly. Yeah. So I guess your worldview is that man can be nature, and there's a proper way to uh,
Yeah.
enact techne or to perform techne.
Oh yeah, I also think that nature is intelligent. Right? So it's pretty clear to me that nature has intelligence, right? So I would go with maybe panpsychism at the very least.
Yeah.
Right?
There. Okay. Yeah. Which is a part of this my own philosophy as well. But the panpsychism is most of it. Like, if it's not individuated, if there's not a spirit behind the form, then it's from this ultimate spirit that creates forms. Like, for instance,
Okay.
when you go to bed at night, you don't uphold the world. Like when Zephyr goes to sleep tonight, she's dreaming, right? But she's not sustaining the Amazonian forest, right? There's this thing, there's some mind upholding forms that lack spirit, right? Maybe that might be too deep.
Everything
We
has
would
spirit,
say
though.
it's demiurgical or whatever, or Plato would call it the one or something. There's this thing that's dispersing its mind. The Vedas would say Brahma is like breathing or dreaming.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
the
call
form.
it like Holy Spirit.
Holy Spirit,
and I think it's got to me, it's got a name. His name's Gabriel or Jibril. I mean, but yeah.
Okay.
Mine is like, I like Metatron. Metatron's cool.
Yeah, the Kabbalistic view. Yeah, okay. And you're coming from an Islamic stance, or?
Oh yeah.
Okay, gotcha. I just wanted to get on the same page. Wanted to get more familiar. I don't knock anyone's philosophy, so I'm not here to like demean or argue anything.
Yeah, me
I just
either.
wanna get
Really.
on the same
Oh
page.
yeah, yeah. We've had tons of different people on.
Cool.
I'm a fence walker, or whatever. Fence sitter. That's some people say I'm a fence sitter. I just like to walk on it.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
It's like walking on Occam's razor. Not cutting your feet. It's broken.
Cool. Yeah, carry on. Didn't mean to disrupt. Just wanted to dive more into the idea.
Oh no, I just think I mean it's fascinating stuff, really. But I mean, I actually made a statement 4 levels, where I talked about the issue, right? And I think that this is actually pragmatist and not idealist, really. But yeah, I think of myself more cynical, pragmatist, than idealistic. But yeah, I do think of the ideas of God, man, nature, and technology, and you can throw mind in there too. You could replace mind for one of them, right? But I think mind and nature are really pretty much the same thing, right? So I think yeah.
I've always thought that mind was the part of your spirit that inhabits your body. Like,
Yeah. I would say it's like nature does stuff, right? It contemplates, right? Meaning that it has processes, right? So I call those processes, it's basically deliberation, right? So what it is so I think that there's that nature's thinking, right? And so obviously
and it must be so because I'm nature and I'm thinking. So yeah.
But it seems like we have this unlimited capacity to think, right? Like it seems like the forms in nature, like a tree or the animal kingdom or the vegetative and the mineral kingdom, they all seem to obey hard laws. They don't really they don't step out of line when it comes to existing, quote unquote. But we as human beings, some of us, we seem to have the ability to think beyond what nature intends for us.
Mm-hmm.
Like we can conceive of the idea of flying, but we can't fly. We can conceive of not breathing and existing, but we have to breathe. We can conceive of an idea of not eating and, spawn spiritual concepts like breatharians and, and like
on nature. That is what makes it is because it's always building on nature. That's why we have wet eyes that have saline water tears wetting them because they developed underwater in the ocean. And
yeah, but would you agree that it seems like a part of us seems to exist beyond or without nature?
Yes, absolutely. But it's like it pales in comparison to incarnation. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah,
So
I think
oh, sorry.
Yeah, I think we are basically separated from nature in our current state, right, to a considerable degree, right?
Seeming.
Yeah. And I think
what it really is that we can create, obviously parallel systems to nature, right? And I think that those systems, because human society used to be based on natural organization, but now it's based on technical organization, right? So the fact is that humans, right? As I said earlier, right, or as I tried to explain earlier, right, they're being engineered by technique, right? They're no longer being engineered by nature, right? And technique is to a certain extent the sublimation of nature, right? But it's not under the individual human will, but under the collective human will, so to speak, right? So I think that you know, I mean, as I mean, basically our teacher Scorbina said that technology is second order nature, right? Nature itself being a reification of thought, right? I think that we can create systems parallel to nature that then basically, you know, um, we've become totally separated from nature itself, right? So yeah, I don't think by technology being natural, we couldn't still create a world from based on technology that's separate from nature, right? Is this a good thing or a bad thing, right? Well, I mean,
Yes.
Yeah, if you believe in the idea that there is an absolute spiritual liberation, then you could place the moral judgment on it that it could be bad for the spirit preventing it from absolute liberation or freedom. Because there's
I look at
always some sort of binding or bond, like you're bound to it.
or if man has a spiritual connection to nature itself, then it would be hugely deleterious.
Yeah, but that doesn't seem to be our experience in it. And we have this idea. Come again, Zephyr?
Yeah.
Seeming and being are different.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't seem
There
to
you
be
go.
that way.
But she just bonked you though.
Well, no, I'm
Right there.
saying that's my point though, is what we experience as being isn't that way.
Who says? You don't know that. You don't know that.
Well, it seems to fight against us. Like earlier when he made the comment that climate could have spawned economy.
It seems to, but seeming is different than being.
Yeah, I say seemingly to be polite instead of being as matter of a fact and saying that is the case, I say seem.
Well, wait, wouldn't that go against your point though? If nature caused the economy, then how would our experience be separate from nature, right? Or our spirituality be able to be separated from nature, right?
Because it doesn't need economy. That's my point. So I don't get what you mean. Like the nature spawning economy is a bad thing. It seems that nature pushes man into creating economies.
No, nature does things the most economical and balanced way possible. Economics is not always balanced with money. Because we abstract it with that one layer of abstraction, it just fucks us all up.
Yeah, but like nature, even if economy was balanced, there's still a suffering, right? There's still a give and take. Like that's what polarity brings.
Well,
just like nature is balanced, just like the argument the guy the other night had is there must be an evil if that we are to have good or whatever. I don't necessarily see that as the case. If you minus nature from it, if you minus economy, if you minus the what we call earthly experience, it seems you're left with existing as purely spirit, which is like infinite potentiality.
But for now, we're incarnated, so.
Yeah. It seems like that's the problem. That's why we are experiencing the technical revolution, right? Like like we're being human beings. It seems like technical revolution is our destiny. Otherwise, we would be fighting this, right? It's like we're being cold into it. And even the people who think it's a wise idea seem to be cold into it.
We know what to do
when
it's
a higher mind calling us into it.
Yeah, that's the thing though.
And the universe.
That...
Sorry.
Oh wait, say that again, Zeph.
I said Yeah, see, now I forgot it. We'll just have to back it up later.
Yeah. But
There went off in the ripples.
yeah, let me try to like change your mic settings because sometimes you'll go in and out or whatever. Maybe it's like maybe I have
No
to
way.
do like yeah, I think I have to do reduce, but I either have to automatically adjust or reduce mic background noise. I think if I hit those, if I hit all three of these, it'll change somehow. So let me.
I probably just restart my phone and come back to.
No, it's
That might help.
already better. It's already better right now. As I hit those, I just have to remember to
Well, I'm
hit
leaning
those.
in forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's way better now.
Cool.
Yeah.
So DB says I'm only saying there's give and take in economics. I don't think that's what I said. Polarity in general in the living, what you call living naturally,
Oh, he
it's on different.
definitely wants to come on the show and talk to you. But I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think
Well,
there is a remedy to the techne problem, but I don't think
Yeah.
it's trying to correct techne in a way that we can utilize it naturally.
I don't know.
We have this idea that there's something we call it first degree determinancy, where that's like natural law, like physics, right? There's these things that seemingly happen over and over and over again, like the Spinozan or
I just
the
time to the abyss and it like siphons it off. That's all. Cool.
and
Sounds crazy, but
yeah, and then there's a second degree determinancy, which is something that is forced upon nature. The thing that makes the forms, it can control or determine things itself. It doesn't like to do that, but it does when it is necessary. So like if you try to create a utopia in the world, there's these seemingly miraculous events that occur that prevent it from happening.
Oh yeah.
it'd be too perfect because it needs to be a little asymmetric always because it makes new designs.
Yes, the Earth Coincidence Control Office.
Coincidence Control Office.
Yeah. Yeah, have you ever heard that from John C. Lilly? The Earth Coincidence
I haven't,
Control.
no, but I know who Lily is. Yeah,
yeah. He said there's like angels that are walking around, basically causing carefully planned coincidences to occur.
There you go. Exactly.
And you have to
self-assimilating entities, because self-assimilating entities want to create technological utopia.
Totally.
Yes, sir.
But not utopia. That's boring. It should be fun.
Well, no, it doesn't have to be boring though. See, like that's the idea. You've been not you personally, but we've been tricked into believing that there isn't anything outside of dichotomy, that there isn't anything outside of polarity. It's the Masonic idea. It's the Rosicrucian idea. It's the alchemical idea. It's this idea that suffering is a good thing and that you progress by degrees and you learn from your mistakes and you become better and better and better. But can't you actually, with your unlimited potentiality, your will, your mind, can't you conceive of a reality where there isn't evil and there's only good and amazing experience that is limitless and that you have all these options minus the bad?
I bet you people would
right?
still want to experience the suffering. I bet you people would go to suffering movie theaters, immersive virtual reality freaking memory things that came from their ancestors' memories or something that we've got recorded in a Kosh. Keep forgetting about that.
But yeah, I mean, since the major way to go away from nature or to transcend nature is the technological system, how would you go beyond nature?
It isn't though. Sorry, I didn't mean
the
to
technological
continue.
system.
Yeah. I think that's a misnomer. I think when you say that they're trying to transcend nature, that's a misnomer because what they're using to transcend it is nature. They're having to use matter to do it.
Yeah. Yes.
And then when they're left,
they don't like matter.
Say that again.
They don't like matter though.
No, they do. They're obsessed with it.
Are you sure?
They are materialists. They're atheistic materialists, and they think that matter is the only existence. That's why they have to prolong their life for thousands and thousands of years. So they actually are wanting an eternity in nature. They don't want to transcend it because they don't even believe in a spiritual realm.
Yeah.
So I think that's the fault right there, the misnomer in the idea that they don't like nature. No, they do, and they're obsessed with it. They worship it.
Yeah,
They want to
they're totally
become
afraid.
naturistic gods.
They think that they are already, like, but they don't really believe it. Kind of messed up.
Yeah, I mean, what about the you know, like for example, like Kurzweil and these guys, they're not exactly attached to Earth, are they? Like Michio Kaku and these guys, they're not exactly attached to Earth.
Well, the Earth isn't the end of nature. They see the whole entire cosmos as material. That's why they're interplanetary or they're stellar.
Yeah.
They want to travel to other what they believe to be other terrestrial areas. And inhabit those, and keep going and keep going. So they think of that's why we call it the material cosmos.
I mean by nature intelligence, Earth intelligence. I mean 100%. I mean
if they could keep Earth, they would, but they have this idea in their mind that it's destined for destruction. That climate, that we are affecting the climate in such a way that we're exhausting it of all of its resources, and that we will destroy it. So they need another Earth. They'll call it some other name. They'll go to another place. In their mind, they believe this. I don't believe this, but they do.
They have to
go ahead, Seth.
Life. And yeah, it's not easy to reproduce in space, like as humans that are used to gravity, unless they came up with anti-gravity. And then
You can postulate how it's hard, but they don't seem to be thwarted by those ideas. They're such optimists when it comes to this idea of inhabiting the entire universe.
If you think it's nature causing people to do it, then why do you keep saying they?
Say that again?
I said, if you think it's nature causing people to do it, then why do you keep saying they?
Because they are a part of it. They buy into it. And I don't believe that everyone is inherently good either. So that's another part of this philosophy or this worldview, is that there are agents. There is a conspiracy, and there are people who seemingly look like people, but are not. They're actually agents of nature, or we call it the potencies of matter. Like what Lily would call an angel, right? Or whatever you said Lily thought about angels and how they cause these seemingly coincidental instances that alter history or events.
This is a great discussion because you're gonna really disagree with Skolmowski, because he's talking about ecological consciousness.
I've never heard of him. How do you spell his name?
Skolmowski, SKOLIMOWSKI, and we're gonna read some of that tomorrow. And I'm gonna be ending this in about 30 minutes. I say 30 minutes. I was supposed to already have ended, is because of this guy came on. Blessings. I mean, so we'll let him go for 30 minutes and then we'll end the show. Blessings.
I'm sorry, spell that one more time. I messed it up, I guess.
SKOLIMOWSKI. It's spelled exactly how it sounds.
Gotcha.
It's like my last name.
Yeah,
it's like
Polish. So
Henryk Skolmowski. Okay, exactly. Eco-theology toward a religion for our times. Okay, got it.
Oh yeah, I have that one. Eco-theology. I mean,
yeah, good reference, man. Thank you.
Oh yeah. So we'll be reading some of that, and yeah, he's a guy who taught Dr. Scribina philosophy, right? So it's interesting connection there. I mean, but yeah, Henryk Skolmowski and ecological consciousness and participatory mind is one of his great works. Also eco philosophy, one of his great works, right? But so nature versus anti-nature. Well, we'll get into great philosophical discussions about that down the road, I presume. I mean,
of course, yeah. Of course.
Yeah. I'll be here
I'm
tomorrow,
just devil's advocate, man. I'm not really here to like tear down your worldview. I have a different one. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's this is what the show's about, really. And yeah, we will be here tomorrow at the same time, 9:15. Right. So yeah.
Our common denominator is anti-tech, right now. And I think that's the main focus. No matter all the nuances philosophically, we see a problem.
There's four possibilities, right? One is that nature and technology are two separate things, right? The second is that nature is technology. The third is that it's nature creating the technology. The fourth is that it's technology creating the nature, right? So there's, you know what I mean, right? So there's four options there, and to be honest, I mean, I'm not like really married to either one, philosophically speaking, other than the fact that, you know, I want to figure out what relationship nature and technology have to each other. Right? I think it's a deep question, right?
It's about a man's ability to utilize nature using the least possible effort.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like efficient. That's how nature does it too. The easiest
That's why
way.
it's called that's why it's called technique. It's
Oh
about
yeah.
using the most efficient technique for the best result. Sometimes technology is useful, other times it isn't.
Totally. How are you, Star?
I am fine, my dear. And yourself?
Quite lovely.
Blessings. Yeah, blessings, DK. Yeah, every now and then they'll create like these like machines that perform the same function if you like press a button, but they actually do nothing.
Yeah.
You know, there's
and
like
then
vintage machines like that, right?
the sun does that. Just like we send back like less efficient energy back out to the sun, or else it would just get really hot.
It's actually funny you mentioned that. I went to a steampunk museum and all of their attractions were basically things like that. Machines that they'd made, like welded together, these huge machines and things, and they like just make up some fake name about what it actually does. But they're just like all these big machines that are made that do nothing. Lights, noises, bit of steam or something. Maybe a bit of flame. That's it. But they do nothing.
Except for sit there and occupy space. That is something.
Yeah. I mean, it does bring in revenue for the person who made it because it's in a whole steampunk museum thing and there's lots of them.
Yeah, that'll solve this issue. You know, that'll really solve this issue of you know, that machines are about use. You know, we could totally solve this issue by presenting them useless machines. It's like look at this.
Yeah.
At
the same time. Yeah, but see, at the same time, as I think Zephyr just said, it's like, are they useless if they're still bringing in revenue?
Yeah, or if they're still like useful at all and they exist. Like I say, everything can be recycled, but you can't unburn a log yet. You just can't do it.
You know what? You know would be a great debate.
You can't cut things longer either.
You know what would be an excellent debate is if Twilight Son of Lilith would somehow find a way on with hostile Hyperborean. Oh my God! I can't wait till that happens. If that ever happens, I'm gonna blow my own brains out. I know. I don't think I'm allowed to say that online, but yeah.
I know you want me here when I'm in fine form with him, eh? It's just early in the day, so I'm not in my usual form. You seem
but that would be great because there's a pro nature occultist. We have an anti-nature occultist. Good Lord, the sparks would be flying, right?
Well, I'm gonna use my magic wand right here to like summon him. It's a wrench.
Yeah, you get you get like a real wrench or like a magic wand to like moderate it, right?
It's a 7.
So I actually came from where I'm not trying to mischaracterize DK, but I think we were on the same page. Like I was like a white magician, Rosicrucian, anthroposophist. I believed in a heaven on earth, a utopia that was possible. I believed in the idea of the theosophical concept of globes, that, you know, that there is this golden age, this period where human beings can get along and use nature resourcefully, the concept of free energy, and that's a possibility. And I come from that. I did that for 15 plus years, like heavily. And then, you know, chasing Platonism and Neoplatonism and trying to pin down what deity is. It was theology that actually broke that whole entire worldview, because I had an experience of the world, and then what theology was telling me, the philosophical aspects of theology, like trying to take Aquinas to its end, trying to take man, who wrote it? It was forgive me, it was called the there's another guy, he's an Irish theologian. This was about 5-6 years ago. But he was heavy, man, and he had this concept of nature and the non-created. He had like 4 aspects that he broke down, and it's a whole long book. But yeah, the Pseudo Dionysius, all these guys, Proclus, Plotinus, all the pre-Socratics. It eventually led me into the idea that deity is making all of this. Like I understand that there's a God, but I don't necessarily think it's a good thing. I've come to realize that it's not.
Just add
interesting thought. So you believe there is a deity. So you're saying a God, so not necessarily creator.
Yeah,
So
creator. It's a creator, but not necessarily the only. Yeah. So the worldview here is just to lay it out, and I'll let you speak so you don't mischaracterize. We believe in a creator, but it is equal to all other eternal spirits because the eternal is uncreated. It is also the thing that creates.
So you're talking about the demiurge.
Yeah, essentially, but we call it the one. That's the best like general term because it has thousands of names.
Now, see, that's backwards as far as I'm concerned. How
It's
can
what?
the demiurge be the one when the demiurge is only responsible for creating the physical, when the creator is responsible for basically creating everything, including the demiurge itself?
But that's an infinite regress. So like you can keep asking that question.
How can you say it's an infinite regress when you're saying that there is an extra thing that creates everything that is obviously beneath the thing that created everything?
No, that's not what I said. So what I said was let's slow down for a second. There was an eternal place where there's nothing created. We call this the origin. It's uncreated, and it's full of individual spirits. Leibniz would call this monads. It's full of them. But then there's one of them that comes out. The Gnostics would call it the demiurge. Plato would call it the one. Vedas would call it the Brahma. Romans would call it Jupiter. The Jews call it Yod He Vav He. Greeks call it Zeus. It has 1,000 faces and masks and names, but it's this one thing that is essentially sleeping and thinking or breathing the rhythm of the universe and creating polarity. We call it the material cosmos, and it's creating all the forms. But the one thing that it doesn't create is the human spirit. Those are monads, and they come from this eternal, uncreated place. So there is no creator of the spirit. That's existent, or else you go into an infinite regress, because you can keep asking the question, well, who created it? Well, if it didn't have a creator, who created it? Well, you have to submit and say, there's an uncreated, right? Or else you're always going to infinite regress into the question, who created it? Does that make sense?
No, because I actually still believe that it doesn't matter that someone keeps asking the question, who created it? There was obviously something that originally did.
That's where we disagree, which is not a problem.
Because nothing cannot generate something. Nothing can.
You're right. There's always something.
No,
There's never a nothing.
So something had to start everything, because nothing can come from nothing.
Well, no, if you have something that starts something, it has to be a nothing.
Every time that I say something, so nothing can start from nothing, therefore there has to be something to start it.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yes,
you're essentially agreeing with me. Because you're agreeing with me.
There has to be an eternal something.
There you go.
Something.
So there's no creating out of nothing.
From nothing.
There's no ex nihilo.
You guys are totally agreing. DK, you guys are 100% agreeing right now.
Yeah, you're agreeing with me. There's no ex nihilo.
Like, when there's no disagreement, there just isn't one. You can't just create one.
You're agreeing with me that there's no ex nihilo, which means that there was always a something. We call that the origin, and it's eternal. Because if you believe
Who's
that
the we
something
that
was,
you keep mentioning anyway?
say that again.
Who's the we you keep mentioning? People are even asking me in
Spirits,
chat.
monads, the thing that you are calling on this channel DK conspiracy, that you have a name, you have this internal thought process that when you say I, whatever your name in real life is, do this, right? Like what Steiner would call the I in anthroposophy. It's the thing
So
that
you are speaking from the royal we. We are not amused.
well, yeah, meaning like I'm not the only one. I'm not claiming that I'm
So
the
you're
only
one
person
of
that's
many.
making.
Excellent.
Say that again.
So you're one of many. You are not you.
Yes, it's a polytheism. So there's a many and there's not a unity. There is no such thing as a unity because a unity is comprised of parts. Like a car is not existent. It's only existent as long as it has parts that make it sound and together. As soon as I rip the wheels off and I take the doors off and I dissect the engine, it's just a bunch of scattered parts. So we say that unities are not permanent. They're not really existent. It's an illusion.
They're dynamic, but there's many unities. I think those are real.
Yeah, there are. In Neoplatonism, we call them henads. There are, or hypostasis. Yeah, there are these things that seemingly are separate from each other, but they're unities and they're comprised of parts. But we say that those are illusions and they're temporal. As long as they are made of parts, they have the potential to disintegrate into the most fundamental pieces of those unities, which we call parts or monads.
Yeah, I watched a video about nonagons and I understand that stuff.
Yeah, so we think that there is no unity. There is no, and that's why theosis is a sham. That's why henosis is a sham. The unification with a thing called capital God is a sham. It's a possibility. You can really do that, but it doesn't liberate you. It only makes you think equally with its consciousness or its will. If you believe in the will of the deity or the creator, quote unquote, and you want to become alike that, assimilate to it, then you are it. You're being, we call it phagocytation or phagocytosis. It's a molecular biological term. It's when you get consumed and integrated into another cell or a thing or a being.
It's not just, it's the whole universe. It is.
Yes, we say it is the material cosmos, and that's the thing you have to escape. You have to get out of it.
Yeah,
and if you don't, you're in nature.
Yeah, I know, but I'm helping everybody else get out. God damn it.
Yeah, and Techne is, that's where I was talking to when me and TML. I was telling him that's where my ideas come from. Is that nature is intimately a part of the material cosmos, and as long as you're in it, you're playing by the rules of the creator of it. And it's upholding the forms. Even your body, your soul is a form. Your soul isn't actually you.
Do you believe it's part of like a larger mycelium type network?
It's
yeah. You are a part of a unity. You're participating while you're in the material cosmos. Yes. And you can make in magic, we call it correspondence. It's where you think that things are related to each other and you try your hardest to relate everything to each other. You'll make systems of correspondences and you'll say, well, the sun is gold and the lead is Saturnian or whatever. You'll work your way up the celestial hierarchies until finally everything is unified.
Yeah, it's like the Nostradamus predictions. He made so many, then people tried so hard to make things fit. They think he's one of the greatest philosophers ever. He made thousands and thousands of predictions. How many do you know that they ever said, oh, that fits something, we can try and make it fit?
Yeah. When you're speaking subconscious, it's easy to do. That's all you do, really.
Yeah, well, when you're trying to make things fit, you seem to be able to find a way.
Yeah, even if you need a sawzall.
I don't think we get those things over here, but I know your reference.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I get your reference. I know what they are, sort of thing. You can change all the attachment things on them and shit. I can't remember what they're called here.
I have to take
Anyway, yeah, I've kind of laid it out for you, DK. I didn't mean to take up TML's time, so I'm gonna go on. I'm gonna go on mute.
You ain't here to like be my spiritual guide or nothing, man. This is a debate between people who already have their own beliefs.
That's not what I meant. That's not what I meant.
No, this is seriously. This is a conversation between people who already have their own beliefs. You're just telling me yours.
Yeah.
When I said telling me yours, you're not.
When I said I laid it out for you, I meant my perspective.
I just laid everything out for you. Oh, thank you, my master. Now I know how the universe works. Like, what
I meant my
hell,
perspective,
bro?
DK.
Stop
I meant
talking yourself up like you're the only one who has their own thoughts on how everything works.
You notice I don't say that. Like, I don't have that tone.
Having your head up your own ass, would you? Bloody hell. No one else got to say a word. It was just everything you thought. Every time I said anything, you said I was wrong, and it was back to how you thought things were. While you're busy saying you're telling everyone else how things are. Holy crap, man. You're the one who hasn't listened to anyone. Talking to us about spell casting and holy shit. The fact that you're a we and you don't even consider yourself?
Not just
I don't
myself.
think that's what I said at all. But yeah, man, you got it. You got it figured out. I'm not trying to teach you anything. I just meant I laid out my own perspective. But yeah, man, you got it.
Yeah, at least it's not saying the first night what he did to me. That's me.
And this is me early in the day. This is me being nice. Holy crap.
He's pretty reasonable right now, actually. Don't tell him.
I know. I'm being good.
Do you want a plaque? I can make you a plaque.
No, but could I have a medal or something?
Yeah, I'd make
maybe
you
a certificate. Oh no, plaque would actually be cool. Yeah.
Yeah, like a little thing, like a little piece of art or something that would look like a
plaque. Yeah, I could stick it on my wall behind me, so when I have my camera on, it's like everyone will see that I've actually got a certificate for being nice.
I think I got some stamps.
Smiley face, gold star, that sort of shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I have like metallic, like I have mirror stickers and freaking metallic markers and chrome markers and all sorts of cool shit. Make it look like it's metal.
All right. Anyway, so back to some of that more interesting conversation, though. It's like some of it was kind of interesting. It's just, I don't like being talked down to like someone else's beliefs are obviously superior to everyone else's.
How do you derive that though? How do you come to the conclusion that I'm superior?
By your tone of superiority, and anytime I said anything, you go, no.
There's a difference between authoritative and superior.
Every time you go, no, it's what I think.
But that's how you have a polmatic.
That's how you have a tone of superiority.
It's not superiority. I've never once said that you need to. I never once said that you need to integrate into my philosophy.
You just keep saying I was wrong, and what you had to say was right.
What you're hearing is a tone of superiority. What you're hearing is a tone of surety. It's authoritative sounding, and that intimidates you.
No,
but I'm not.
Mate,
I'm not telling you what to believe.
Otherwise, you wouldn't be saying no every time I say anything.
But that's what you do. You're like projecting onto me. You literally came on here to argue me. So we've had a polmatic, but then when I try to argue, you're like, no, you're trying to be superior. Okay, gotcha.
It took ages before I said anything to you. Don't be silly. Stop thinking everything's about you. You're just the one who's trying to make it all about you.
What? Okay.
I bet you think the song's about you.
You did raise some interesting points, but at no point is that going to change my views on anything.
I'm not trying to. Does Darth Vader want to chime in?
We're expanding it.
On the
aren't
dark
we?
side.
I think he ran out of air.
Machine Lies, where we talk about the lies of the machine on the machine that lies.
Actually sounds more like Megatron.
That's good.
That's a transformer. That's not Darth Vader.
Sounds like the Dos, or what is it? Dos Ex Machina, or however you say it.
Deus Ex Machina.
I say the machine, the ghost, and the ghost.
Ah, Ghost in the Machine.
And the machine and the ghost.
There's a few people who use that name online.
There's a song by The Faint that's called that.
I don't want to take up too much of everybody's time.
Why not?
I think this was, well, it's past midnight here, so I really ought to get some sleep. I have to wake up at dawn.
Yeah.
So I will be back tomorrow. 9:15 p.m. Yeah, there I'll give a 6-hour presentation included with discussions for people that want to come in, talk about those different issues, from a religious conscience to a technological conscience, talk about Ellul's views, right? Talk about Uncle Teddy, talk about the Tao Te Ching, right? We're only going to do a couple more shows on the Tao Te Ching there, so if you guys want to speak your mind on that text, definitely, come through. Bring your own translations. You can bring your own readings. I gave an interesting discussion about it on Jack Talcott's show the other day. All right, maybe I'll play that after the show tomorrow. But yeah, peace to all the people. I mean, do you guys have anything else to say to the people out here? I mean, we will be back tomorrow. I mean,
Guess I'll try and
I
get
appreciate
you
it.
tomorrow
Yeah.
then, man.
yeah, blessings, DK. Of course, I threw the link in the chat. You guys want to come up and say something? You have a last opportunity to do that. Everybody else here, you guys, whatever you guys would like to say. Blessings. Wait, hold on. I gotta turn the music off for Zeph because it's actually cutting into her speaker there. Yeah, Zeph, what do you say?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll play it again in a minute.
I was just saying. Now I forgot. It's like I'm like a friggin' goldfish right now. I should not smoke.
We got Denizen. Blessings, Denizen.
Yeah.
Yo.
Hey, man.
I'm gonna get Zeph a headset.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm about to shut her down. But I'll be back tomorrow though.
I missed the good stuff.
Yeah, I missed the good stuff. Yeah, we definitely had a lot of good stuff today. Definitely worth a replay for the people out there. This one's gonna stay up here. We did a a new show yesterday. On the other channel. Let me bring that link out. There's another show on the other channel, on the Cyber Caliphate channel, that's not on this channel. So there's tons of stuff. There's this 2-hour show. There's that 4-hour show that barely anybody watched on the other channel. Right. So yeah, go give that a little, little watch. give this episode a watch. That's 6 hours of stuff. If you have 6 free hours between today and tomorrow, it's a lot of stuff. So yeah, there's if you want to hear from me, there's no shortage of opportunities, honestly. But yeah, talk too much.
Time is imaginary, anyways. It is in my universe. Maybe yours is just like. Are you gonna cry?
So what if I do?
It's okay, you can.
It's all right. We'll just laugh harder.
Yeah, you should do it on camera. That'd be really entertaining.
How much you gonna pay me?
This isn't OnlyFans.
Oh, you should ask what I'm going to pay you with.
This isn't OnlyFans. I don't know why you're making requests.
This really isn't OnlyFans. Cut it out.
No, I am a loyal person, and I only need one penis. Thank you. There's no. Make that very clear. I might take a shower, but I won't have the camera on. I usually turn the speaker off, too.
Okay, kinky. Well, that's it for me, folks. That got really weird really fast. So let me just say, make sure that you wear a condom before you do any butt stuff. All right, gentlemen? Have a good day. Thanks.
Have a blessed one, Dennison.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah, see you tomorrow, my friend. All right, what else, guys?
Oh, sorry, that was just funny.
The DK trolled another person off the panel, so
I think this time Zephyr did it, actually. It wasn't me this time.
Yeah.
This time. Oops.
She's quite proud of herself, too. She's like, yeah, it was me. See, look at that smile.
I'm just being responsible for myself and my actions, okay?
I've noticed.
all right, folks. How about some closers there?
Look at your chat.
Yeah, go ahead.
All you tell me is, I came in at butt stuff.
Yeah, that's a bad look.
That's when you came in? What? That's not good.
We got this guy. Little
Same,
Wing
what
6.
happened?
Uh-oh. Yeah, the show's over is what
There's
happened.
some bad timing out there. Really, really bad timing.
No, it's
Yeah, rewind the tape. Yeah, rewind the tape. Go to 2 hours ago, and yeah, that's pretty much it, folks. That's it for me. Blessings to all you guys. DK, what do you got to say to these people?
Thank you for sticking around. Thank you guys for letting me on here again. Hope everyone actually enjoed the show.
Thank you, my friend.
Good stuff to say, despite the fact that we disagree on stuff. It's definitely worth it's definitely worth watching and stuff and listening to.
Blessings, homie. I appreciate that.
Much love, no fear, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Yeah, peace be with you. Yeah, see you tomorrow. Yeah, hopefully.
If I can make it.
Yeah, for sure. Peace, brother. Okay, Zeph, how about you?
I just want you to look at my my avatar picture there, because it's really freaking hilarious, and it's a real photo.
Oh, wow.
Those are the Albuquerque police.
Albuquerque turkeys.
Actually, that's Rio Rancho or Bernalillo County Police, I think, or Rio. I don't know. So one of those, we had a ticket, so we had to go pay it, and that was in the parking lot of the court. It was funny. And the mountain behind is the Sandia. But love you guys. It was a lovely chat. We'll have to do it again.
Peace, Zeph. Yeah, thank you, Zeph.
Thank you.
And what about you, my friend?
Yeah, man, I don't mean to disrupt as much as I do a DK. Yeah, I like what you're doing. I like what you're putting out. I
Yeah,
think
thank you, my
that
friend. I appreciate that.
yeah, man, you're focused on something that's a serious problem that most people take lightly, and it's not to be taken lightly. So
Right.
keep it up, man. I may in the future stay off the streams to disrupt less. I want to hear more of the reading. I'm interested in the lull. Yeah, yeah, just whatever you're doing, man. I'm going to be following. So keep it up.
Oh yeah.
Thanks
Oh
for
yeah.
letting me on.
Oh yeah. I mean, also, I'm always available. You could email me. We can exchange numbers. I'm not shy to do any of that. So yeah. Send me an email. Don't feel shy to reach out. Anybody out there, really. Don't feel shy to reach out. If you're not, if you don't feel comfortable coming on the show, you can still have a conversation with me. Either on
Yeah.
Discord
Yeah.
or email or on the phone. There's many different ways to get in touch with me, folks. I'm just a
Yeah, if
normal
you
guy.
could drop
Oh, yeah.
your email in the private chat, man, and I'll
Oh,
take
yeah.
it down.
Yeah, it's on the channel there too. It's just the machinelive0@gmail, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, it's easy to remember. The machinelive0@gmail. Send me an email. I can send you the book, free PDF. To all the people out there, I'm available. I'm not just available on an internet panel. This panel is nothing to me, and these shows are just a bunch of numbers and figures. That is for YouTube to analyze, really. What I'm here for is the interactions between the people and to share the ideas and to see how people interact with the ideas, right?
Yeah.
So that's really what I'm after, right? I care less what the machine says about the numbers and the figures of my stats and how I'm doing. I don't actually read things that way, right? So greatly appreciate your time. Having said that, and you're always welcome here, of course. But yeah, blessings, brother.
Yeah,
But,
thank you.
Yeah. Anything else you'd like to say to these people? There are
Nope,
23
that's it,
people here.
man. Yeah, all the commenters are always polite. So yeah, y'all have a good night and thanks again.
Yeah, peace, brother. Thank you so much. Yeah, and peace be with the family of the homie there. Hostile Hyperborean. I'm having lots of struggles, folks. Emotional struggles, I can't get my groove back. Sort of thing. Emotionally depleted. Really just lonely, spiritually distraught. But what really comforts me is seeing that there's a spiritual struggle going on. There's real goodness in the world, right? God is good, right? And there's a real battle going on between good and evil. Don't ask why if you know it's wrong. And yeah, blessings. Yeah, thank you, Dr. D. I appreciate you guys nonetheless. But yeah, we're here to talk about technology and all these things. And how the symbolic world, is part of this idea of the spread of technology, right? So, yeah, obviously, we went through a range of conceptual themes here, right? But the main three themes that we're looking at recently, right, is man, nature, and technology, how they counteract, right? So yeah, it's been devastating. Devastating emotional stuff. My troll quit the internet. Things are getting so hot out here. My troll toilet bowl birth actually quit the internet. They did a whole attack. Drew did an attack stream on toilet bowl. And I thought I was, totally weird stuff. Right? The guy's actually, talking about how great his life's going in comparison to mine, and he's actually, totally worse off. All right, totally worse off. All right, so yeah, before you think, man, your life's bad. Try to walk a mile in another person's shoes.
But yeah, blessings, homies. I greatly appreciate you guys. Yeah, exactly. Perseverance. Right? But yeah, we'll be back tomorrow. Speaking of perseverance, right? We'll be back tomorrow, right? More Ellul, more Skolmowski, more Dow, unless we get shut down, right? Now, there has been a ramping up of censorship, right? I've talked about some themes and ideas even on this show and played some videos and stuff that definitely might get the stream shut down, right? So we're not, we don't know if we'll be here tomorrow, right? That's why we really hope you guys go and subscribe to this alternative channel, right? Because we don't even know, because our who we can communicate is controlled by YouTube, right? Okay. Right. Systems exist so we never meet each other. Pretty soon they're gonna outlaw the word brother, right? Mr. Liff. I mean, but yeah, blessings, guys. I mean, let's not let it get to that. I mean, let's have real care and respect for each other and deal with the human scale. Okay. And let's leave the symbols to the symbol minded. You know what I mean? But yeah, blessings to all the people that are here. Okay, I greatly appreciate your time. This has been The Machine Lies, where we talk about the lies of the machine on the machine that lies. And you know, you can't kill what you can't see. And the first step to blinding somebody, okay, is getting them to open their eyes, right? Okay. So yeah. You know. Thank you for being here, guys.
Knock this shit, Carnival, Knievel. Flip money, DMX bikes, don't slide. Moving in the air, you dummy. Your dumps get lumped like bumps. Pop crews like the youngsters who back out rapping. Fans deader than the monsters. It's a shame how your brain get picked to be amongst the best. Copping trees to put a hole in your chest. I'm a slave to the way you get stuck on a vortex. Catch wreck like rotten.com and intellectual fish. Looking to get wet, I bet you ruthless. Catch you falling, you break like the car don't start. Niggas stalling. I'm brawling like that fight night. I'm 21, a champion in my prime like Mike. Fuck up everything in sight. Y'all bite like Mike in his old days. You so afraid, go run away. This nigga don't play. My hip hop rap with a dog rap. Change rider at the thought of a battle. For the art on the sport, y'all niggas run herd like a cattle. It's full court music. Confuse the second rate drunks, pimps, and the niggas who be users.
Rappers get caught with that shit all day. You acting hard, come on, that be off your hand. I bust legend friend like yo. Who gives a fuck if he rapping? We all call to the battle to see what rappers get caught with that shit all day. You acting hard, come on, that be off your hand. I bust legend friend like yo. Who gives a fuck if he rapping? We all come to the battle to really see what's happening.
Rap River Phoenix, seen and really need it. Every night could be another Viper room repeated. People have dreamed and seen it. Feel it, I'm thinking maybe this is the real world and everybody else is crazy. Couldn't have had the baby. Love it and keep the habit. $50 back alley, I said snatch it. Out of the womb, pursuing my doom is looming. I'm moving, enjoying the movement by usually doing everything I probably shouldn't. Robbery couldn't get him any richer than this. I'm part of a movement. Gold mine, rhyme, musically sick. Doing the shit, anything to prove to you how rude I can spit. Live and die for the same hobby. My spirit and body deciding that odds and ain't probably godly enough. Abuse this temple, no all of this followers fucked. Swallowing pure nothing, for sure something can happen. Putting on rapping, double or nothing.
Rappers get caught with that shit all day. You acting hard, come on, that be off your hand. I bust legend friend like yo. Who gives a fuck if he rapping? We all call to the battle to see what rappers get caught with that shit all day. You acting hard, come on, that be off your hand. I bust legend friend like yo. Who gives a fuck if he rapping? We all come to the battle to really see what's happening.
forces which were once stopped by the front door have found their way into the home through personal computers.
Explosions, a cargo ship explodes, setting fire to oil tanks and killing 567 people. A challenging period of history is marked by financial depression and universal war destroy the evil. And computer sabotages programmers' romance. Other MCs living in terror that cause demolition. The cycle of construction and destruction reflects the shifting values of any given era. Dynamite blasts out the natural resources that have built our modern world. The sounds of mystery around. A 6-year-old with mind power controls his entire town. The sun, I steal a shipment of guns. An empire unfurl. A woman's nightgown. In a dream, a factory owner replaces workers with machines clean. I send a facet of light into the dark after region. For the Dodgers to make the playoffs every year. Hey, stop over in a quiet town for no reason. 5 characters in search of an exit to the disappearance of the deceased. A late sight, an earthquake shaking California Zoo culminates in an employee's death from snake bite. Phantom Valley, water the hammerhead shark, Hawaii. Son, some Cherokee Indians come from North and South Carolina. I shatter your respectability. The conquest of all graduates in this facility. World War II POWs escape the German camp. The Rainmaker death rides a horse, a wasteful sun by a lamp. A dimension that is as vast as space and as timeless as infinity. After accidental execution, man's thoughts become artillery. Here come the people your gang attacked years before. Rifles pierce your core. The medieval tournament, jousting weapons and armor, chivalry, a kind never seen galore. The Apache came down from Canada along with their relatives, the Navajo. I rock on his show, a rock bottom crow views the impossible. A man can change his face to assume other identities. A man is given a stopwatch that holds time with a firearm in a mind like Joseph P. Kennedy. During the Civil War, women form a gang to ride out for revenge. The bombing death of your news producer. 3 astronauts cannot recall their space flight. A nuclear submarine friend join others lost in war along the border. You rent a mansion for a summer and find it's haunted. Big light sleeper, atomic bomb from a tape recorder. A power failure causes panic. Chains become a powerful tool of war, sometimes altering the sight of battles. A gunman visits the grave of a man who vowed revenge. I blow out the candle. The American. I utilize over 100 different weapons. Regarding the super soldiers, their dead bodies lie decrepit. I deflect bullets to send enemies flying to give you a message. An airship crashes into the Pacific. Power plant Bruce Banner receives an electric jolt which enables him to see the future for a time gifted. A well-versed art thief stepped in. He must prevent mercenaries from using a destructive weapon. You die from yellow fever in question. Police suspect a man in a diner is a Martian invader with his arms flexing. A girl died mysteriously on the 3rd floor of a mansion. Ebola virus causes people to die. Planning this ghostly reunion to expansion. Manipulate electronics, upgrade your synthetic eye to see through the walls. Use powerful new techniques so that you never fall. Enemies controlled by the all-new evil may destroy what's been taught, but photos and archival footage document recovery, the later discovery of the riverbank robot tank memoir. A haunted old playhouse, groundbreaking destruction, commandment of heavenly. Some Japanese continue fighting World War II till 1970. Up the stairs across the attic, down out of the window to hang outlaws. One can fight all Southpaw. 1912, the Titanic crash, bash at night, a red, white, and blue hydrogen bomb blast, brass, a picture of the sky, some listen when you die today, not a splinter in the mind's eye.